Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some Gwent Rogue Mage, the new Gwent single-player roguelike game, and let's hop into the laboratory here as we are about to start on a new run. And I think our plan for today is that we are going to, for the first time, use a Savage Fury MELUSINE deck as our key card. So let's take a look here. If we jump in, Savage Fury, it's been a long time since we last used this, so it's of course, generally speaking, the damage archetype. And MELUSINE, her deal is that she does deal damage, but in a little bit more of an unconventional way. So every other turn, we can use her order ability to spawn rain on one of our enemy rows for 2 turns, and that is going to mean 2 random enemy units are going to get damaged by 1 on that row. So a little bit slower damage, but it does build up over time, and over the course of a match, assuming you get MELUSINE fairly early on, could be worth a fair bit of value. So that is the card that we're looking to build around here. Of course, we've already done runs with Dagger and with Unseen Elder, and we've had success with those ones. However, I feel like Dagger certainly had a bunch of cards that synergize well with him, because anything that deals damage will get him boosted. And Unseen Elder, although a little bit tougher to get the synergizing cards, there's still a fair number of things that also work together with bleed. Whereas in the case of MELUSINE, I'm a little concerned about that because, I mean, yes, in a certain way, damage is damage, and so she does help us do that, true. But on the other hand, in terms of specific row effects / weather synergies, really the only thing we have in that regard is the MELUSINE Cultist. And in the previous runs with Savage Fury, this was one of our weaker bronze cards. Not the absolute weakest, probably not at least, but certainly in the lower half. Whereas in this case, it is, I think, outside of MELUSINE, might be the only other way we can create row effects to begin with. So, or at least certainly from our starting deck. So that is something to keep in mind as we're starting out this run for the first time. So why don't we hop in here? And I suppose I should mention, for those of you who are like, Lids, what's up? On Twitch, at least, this is not the usual day we're streaming. I am going to be out of town on Friday, so that is the reason for the unusual streaming day, at the very least. And hopefully, if you're watching this on YouTube, then no big deal. You probably didn't even notice. But as for our spells here, I do like the mix of Cleanse, Portal, and Masterful Thunder. It does feel like this gives us a nice variety. Cleanse helps protect our high priority cards like MELUSINE. Want to make sure that she stays on the board because, as we said, she needs to stay on there for a long time in order to get the good value out of her. Otherwise, just a turn or two, just 1 or 2 rounds that order ability, and it's not going to add up to all that much. So protecting her or other high value cards, that is worth doing. Also, worth taking a moment here to just remind myself what the other cards in our starting deck are. So Synthesis Blaze, okay. Both head in. Proto-Flutter, so like Proto-Flutter, for example, worked well with Unseen Elder. Doesn't work as well without additional sources of bleeding, so this just doesn't make a ton of sense for us. Sheila, just damage. Greatsword, that will work pretty well, because, well, yes, the damage will add up, so we'll be able to heal you. So that's probably our best bronze card. Brown Berserker, mixture of a little bit of damage and decent base power card once it transforms. Panther, I think, has generally been the weakest bronze card in our previous runs, so that is likely still the case here. As I said, MELUSINE Cultist in past Savage Fury runs was probably after Panther our weakest card, but it is pretty much the only thing here that directly synergizes with the... I mean, I suppose there's no reason why we have to do our damage with Rain, but if we look at what happens if we upgrade MELUSINE. Okay. She also has Veil, so she's not going to be able to get locked, which is unusual that happens, but nice little bonus. So spawn rain, enemy row, 2 turns, cooldown 2, that looks the same. But then this is new. At the end of your turn, boost self by the duration of row effects on the opposite row. Okay, so she's actually a bit of a hybrid between damage and boosts in that case. And this does warrant trying to get more row effects, and for the most part, Rain is going to be the easiest way to do that. There are a few other row effects, but they are generally much more difficult to get, like Blood Moon, which I think we saw. Did we? For our Savage Fury run with Unseen Elder? Then again, I had a Gwent multiplayer draft run that I did a week or so ago in which we had Unseen Elder and did a vampires themed deck in which we had a bunch of ways to get that Blood Moon row effect on, which is basically just a row effect that gives additional bleed. So that's theoretically something that might be a possibility, but for the most part, Rain is going to be the quickest and easiest way to get additional row effects and boost up Melusine. Does require a little bit of predicting where our opponents are going to play units so that we have the Rain on the opposite row from Melusine, but, you know, we'll figure out how to make that work. So, yeah, that's going to be a little hard to get the synergizing cards with Melusine, I think. If we can maybe even duplicate our Melusine Cultist, that might even be worth considering. But, to cleanse, boost up Melusine, and maybe the Cultist as well. Masterful Thunder, Melusine with the Rain, it's damage, yes, but it's not targeted damage. It's random damage to the Rain, so it is hard to take out specific high-priority targets. And for that reason, I think having something like Masterful Thunder to give us a bigger burst of targeted damage at a specific card is probably something we'd like to have. And then Portal, it's expensive, yes, but this is basically our plan for if we fall way behind and we need a way to desperately claw ourselves back into contention in a difficult match, then that is the idea behind that. I mean, something to be said for maybe throwing in Edict to destroy a damaged unit, because we will have a lot of damage spread across multiple units with things like Melusine, but then again, a damaged unit does not just mean that we have hit it with damage, it actually means that it is below its starting power. So if, for example, our opponent plays a really powerful unit that has been boosted a ton, we might hit it once with Rain, but unless we can damage it so much that it is below its starting power, Edict will still not be able to destroy it. So although it sounds like it could be absolutely amazing, and in some situations it definitely could be with a deck like this, it's not quite as universally powerful as it might first seem, or at least based on how this phrasing would work in multiplayer Gwent, that would be my interpretation of it. So, tempting, but I think we'll pass on that. Then I'm still a big fan of the Archmage's Flask. I think likely to stick with that for the foreseeable future. So let us proceed here, and I think, yeah, after finishing our most recent run, we've now finished another set of mutagens, and so I assume that that means that every time we do that, we can upgrade our max difficulty. So we had been on Apprentice, but it does not say max anymore, so I think theoretically if we were to just, like, out of curiosity, I mean, not that this is necessarily a difficulty thing that I'm trying to do, per se, but I just want to see, yeah. So we can go up to Adept. That would be our max. That is difficulty 3. Okay, so as for... First of all, do we want to do that? And second of all, if so, how do we want to do that? I mean... we should probably at least try, right? So, as things currently stand, we seem to have settled on a pretty nice way to get up to Apprentice. So we got rid of the option to skip rewards. That's the usual amount. Maximum upgrade value of rewarded units is reduced by 2. Still never really determined what the heck this does. I think this has meant that we've never seen gold or purple cards, but then again, I don't remember if that's actually been the case. Just off the top of my head, trying to recall if we've seen them. Maybe? Maybe not? I don't know. I don't know. That hasn't been too bad. Do like the treasure chests. That probably bumps things up. It does not even bump things up that much. Turns are limited to a certain number of seconds. I mean, I know we are the world's slowest Gwent player, but for what it's worth, there is a Gwent seasonal event that requires that you take your turn in 8 seconds or less. So I do have some experience with that. Obviously, it fundamentally changes the way that we play. So, you know, maybe on one occasion, maybe when we do our totally randomized run at some points in time, that might be a way to further add to the chaos, but probably not for now. Out of curiosity, how much does this add? I mean, not only are we looking at... Oh, okay, there's... I was going to say, some of these ones that feel like they're a big deal, we're not moving the needle very much. And so it's not just a matter of what do we and don't we think are reasonable things to take on, but how efficient are they in terms of how quickly they fill this meter. Because at first I saw this and I was like, that's not a lot, but then it keeps on going up and up and up, like, okay, you know, this would, I would have thought, been a pretty big deal in terms of difficulty. But then again, I don't know if this quite literally means that you can't see anything at all except for the node directly in front of you, or if there's, you know, an AoE, a short area, a short circle around you that you can still see, but anything beyond that is completely invisible to you. I'm not sure. Do we see the boss? Do we know which boss we get at the beginning? There's usually that little animation at the beginning as well. So I don't know. That, I mean, does move things up a lot, but what other options might we consider? Enemy units starting with armor, probably not with the damage deck. If we were to use Bulwark, that could be something to consider. How much does this move? Does not move the needle very much. Enemies start with 5 points. Okay, no, we're not going to bump it all the way up to 20. I was just curious to see how high that could go. Like, if this were increments of, 1, 2, and 3, that's like, hey, okay, just throw a little bit on there. It's not a huge deal. Like, 5 is maybe not terrible, but it also doesn't move things very much. So, like, that's an option. Row space reduced. How much does this help? Very little. But I don't think that's a huge deal for us, so that might not be a terrible option. It seems like we might want to do a bunch of little things by the looks of things here. Start with curses in our deck. How much is that? No, surprisingly not as much as I would have thought. Don't know how much more difficult that means. 25% less energy outside of battles. We do like our energy. Number of rewards to choose from. How much does that move things? I'd be willing to do this. Half expecting to see, like, can we make it so that we don't... Number of rewards is reduced by 3. You don't get any rewards. No, that's not an option, although that could be... Yeah, you could see that being a hyper difficulty thing, right? Okay, so if we do that, that actually moves the needle a fair bit. So if we do that, then what if we... Also... What else would we be willing to do? Out of curiosity. Pretty sure that's where we were before, actually. Get to another one? No, that's still not... Okay, if we went to 4, which is the maximum, then that would get us up to Adept. So I assume this means that basically there's no such thing as a higher base power unit for you to acquire from rewards. Which makes sense if the number is 4, because, right, there'd be the... White ore would usually be +1, blue ore would usually be +2, purple would be +3, gold would be +4, so yeah, for it to stop at 4, that seems to check out. That is likely what this actually means. So I would potentially be willing to do this. So no upgrades to base power with the units that we get from rewards. We have... Oh, that was when we were at 2 there. I mean, that was pretty extreme. Yeah, I'm okay with 1 fewer reward. 2 is probably a little too much, but maybe we find something else to just top ourselves off here and get up to the next difficulty. So, enemies start with treasures in deck. I don't remember seeing that. How much of a difference does that make? A fair bit. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that they draw into them, but still, that's dangerous. And also, I'm curious to see how smart are enemies when it comes to their use of treasures, because some of them do require very specific setup, and without that, they could be quite weak, or in some cases, possibly even detrimental. Do this. Is that enough? Not quite. We do... That's even less. This has to get us there, right? Yeah, it gets us there, and well over. Don't want to do this when we're a damage deck. Give them 10 extra points. That starts to become a lot, though. We go 5. Maybe we can do row space. Yeah, that's very little in terms of how much it moves it, but it does get us up to Adept. So I'm not sure we're going to need to have that many units on the board. Yeah, I think for a hive mind, that'd be a huge detriment. But for us, I don't think that's too big of a deal. If we have Portal, it does limit the value of absolutely spamming Portal to no end. Sometimes that does make us clog our rows to a certain extent, but I think we can make this work. All right. So this will be our first run on Adept difficulty, and our first time combining Savage Fury with MELUSINE. So what could possibly go wrong, right? Everything will be fine. I already forget half of the things that we added for difficulty modifiers. Did we put on the Fog of War? Did we do that? Okay, it's the dragon. Yeah, we can spy here. Say, elite battle there. Like, did we put on the Fog of War? Are we gonna not be able to see? There are tons of elite battles. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, and what the? Okay, no, that's just random scenery. But yeah, I mean that is the northern route is super elite battle heavy. Can you even hit all of them? You probably can, right? Because you go. You actually have to go south first. No, you could go north and then go down here. So that's 1. You can go straight into 2. Go this way, 3, and 4. So if we really wanted to, we could do 4 elite battles, which is very, very extreme. Of course, it gives us lots of opportunities to either add treasures to our deck or upgrade MELUSINE, so it's not like it's just us making boundaries difficult for ourselves for no good reason, but that is potentially a little bit tempting. But before that, I mean, obviously we'll have our first battle here, but just plan an early route, treasure chests, early places of power. Is it possible to get up here if we go the southern route here? Oh yeah, we just would need to immediately go up. So like this is probably not a path we're going to take, but green place of power, blue place of power, blue place of power. Ultimately, that may be the deciding factor. And if I ever remembered which things the places of power did, then that would be useful. I think blue is duplicate and green is power up, the red is remove, and yellow, I forget what yellow is. I don't know, man. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just jump into this battle. Alright, it's the Beastmaster. He goes wide. And has damage, if I remember correctly. Okay. Yeah. Spawn a warg. Okay. So, as I was saying before, Protoflutter, I mean, it's going to be a 7 power unit with 3 turns of bleed. So technically it's playing for 10, which is a slow 10, because the bleed takes time to take effect. But it's not terrible, and technically there's a little synergy with the Panther. If we do go the range row route, then we can get a little more bleed. But otherwise, I'm just not sure we really want to be relying on what would normally be our weakest card to set up what is... I mean, I guess we can still do it. We obviously don't have MELUSINE, which we'd like to change. We have a MELUSINE Cultist, which without MELUSINE is not great. With MELUSINE, it is. So we're in this weird place of, do we just go all in on MELUSINE and hope we get her? And maybe mulligan you? Or do we say, yeah, we'll settle for you guys? Yeah. I think... it's probably going to be turn 1, turn 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, depending on what we draw into, of course, but... yeah. We might regret this. We might regret this. And we gave them 5 starting points. Oh, at first I saw this, I was like, what the heck is this thing? Yeah, but this is how we're losing our row space. None shall pass. Fool of a Took. Alright, well, I mean, we draw into MELUSINE, that's great. It's just that, you know, we might have preferred to have built around this in that case. Yeah. Probably want to play you first. Well, yeah, we play you first. And then row doesn't matter for you until you get upgraded, then it does. Then we need to predict where our opponent is so we can put the weather effect on the correct row. Row does matter for you, so we... I suppose technically there isn't really a synergy between you two yet until this gets upgraded. So we should still play you early to maximize the time of the rain effects. Okay, and we'll definitely have enemies to go after here. Okay. Ultheden is a good finisher, and we had a bunch of stuff that needed a little bit of time to set up, so that's good to have a little bit of both those things. So we might want to power up Melusine a little bit here, just to make us so she is out of removal range. The Cultist can boost her if we put Rain on this row, but we don't really want to do that at the moment. So that's a little bit unfortunate. I would like to get the Greatsword down here relatively early to benefit from the healing. I mean, we have enough damage that shouldn't be super time sensitive, but I think we still do this. And we might, just to play it safe, let's not end this run from the first battle, okay? We'd like to do a little bit better than that, because yeah, they will have more damage. I hit the enemy that can hit our unit that can heal itself. And now we can make a point of putting Rain on really either row. But, you know, who do we want to... We don't really want to boost you because you can heal yourself. And those two things are kind of counterproductive. Because the healing is capped at 10. So we would rather have Melusine Cultist boosting up Melusine. So, I mean, we do this. It means we're going to want to put Rain on this row, which I think we'll be fine doing.
Is her hunger, and great is her power.
Means we're not getting one turn out of the rain boost from the Cultist. Who are you going after? Because it should be the Cultist, yeah. Alright, so now I think we actually go other Cultist, and with this, I mean, technically we could do a Cultist sandwich and give a ton of boost on Melusine, although that's... Melusine should be out of removal range pretty darn quickly, if not already, whereas you are obviously quite vulnerable at this point, so I think we actually do this.
Accept this offering that we might make the coast safely.
Okay, so generally speaking, when it comes to row effects, you want to try to split them across... Well, that was a misclick. As you can see where my cursor currently is, that was supposed to be the melee row, because what I was in the middle of saying, was that generally you want to try to split your row effects across both rows so that you have the 2 points of damage on both rows every turn. Technically, Rain will only deal 2 damage if there are 2 units or more in a row, so this is only going to be 1 point of damage per turn. Still going to get the boosts on these Cultists, but this was overkill. We had plenty of time to apply more Rain there, and we were hoping to get a little more going on here in the meantime, but hopefully that misclick does not come back to bite us here. Okay, they're still going after this Cultist. And now we'll apply some Rain here. And so you guys take a little bit of time. We want to play you right before we use you. You take 1 turn. I mean, this is clearly the finisher, and this is going to be our hand for the rest of the match. So one thing you actually can do with the Drummond Berserkers, which is kind of interesting, is because they take 1 damage every turn and deal 1 damage every turn, and once they reach 3 power or less, they transform into a Bear Abomination. If you heal this / boost this every turn, then it'll actually stay on that amount of power, and it will continue to deal 1 damage every turn. So if you prefer dealing damage instead of just being a higher base power unit that sits there doing nothing, then that is something you can consider doing, and we do want to play a unit over here, so we're getting the boosts on both sides of this guy as well. So I think that is worth doing here.
What? This? But a scratch.
Okay, now they'll use a Panther. Now damage could hit you. Yeah, that was smart. For a second there, it looked like they were playing range row. Alas, they did not. But now... So obviously we're going to want to continue to apply Rain here. And because we deal 2 turns of Rain, dish out 2 turns of Rain, and have a cooldown of 2, we should basically be able to just perpetually keep Rain on. And it's either you, or it's you and you. I think we'll go here. So you will take damage every turn, and you will eventually transform. And yeah, I wanted to get rid of that Hunter because that was dealing damage every turn, or every other turn. we technically don't want to destroy this because it will spawn in more rats, but I think there are enough units in this row that that's fairly unlikely to happen. So now it's going to be... Oh, forgot about this Synthesis Blaze, but yes, we'd like to get you down as well, of course. So let's do that now. Then it's you, and then you. Oh, I forgot about this. It's going to take time to effectively... Yeah, we should have done this first. This was more time sensitive than this. I forgot it takes time for the bleed to take effect. I was focusing entirely on the boost. Silly lids. All right. I mean, it's hopefully not going to be that big of a deal. So, yes, we go range row because we're trying to optimize for the protoflighter. And so we'd like to do it on a unit that has a fair bit of health here so that we can actually benefit from all that bleed and not just do overkill damage. But as we were just saying, we didn't really give ourselves as much time as we would have liked for that. So on one hand, we could do it on the Celestial Harpy. On the other hand, the highest unit we should probably keep for Ulfhedden. Don't love damaging Thrive because it just makes it easier for them to trigger that Thrive. So it is probably just going to be us loading up on a ton of bleed on a unit that is never actually going to have time to take all that bleed damage. So let's, with you, not going to hit you. So we want to use Ulfhedden on you or whoever happens to come out next. Let's destroy the Thrive unit altogether. Because then we don't have to worry about that getting boosted. And other than that, shouldn't make too much of a difference. Okay, this is on 1 power. Oh, Toad Prince can consume something. Might be this Synthesis Blaze. Fortunately, we just used those order abilities, so just in the nick of time. Oh, did it? Well, card that we hit with the bleed also got hit by raid, and so it did get destroyed before we could use Protoflutter on it. So alas, it was, as it turns out, a synergy that we just couldn't realistically make work, but, you know, we'll just Protoflutter with no additional setup, and now that there is a 6-power unit, we can use Ulfhedden on that, and we'll just use this on Celestial Harpy. So, yeah, it's a 7 and a few turns of the bleed damage. Unfortunately, the rain did end up getting rid of that. Oh, we'd like to destroy you. Okay. Otherwise, you're getting boosted by 10. So we have random damage and hit you for 1. Random damage, which, you know, is 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in this row. And it'll hit, the rain will hit 2 different units, so there's a 50-50 chance that you get damaged by 1. Then you could hit anybody here, and, you know, no guarantee it's going to hit you at all. That's much lower probability. Ulfhedden is also 1 damage in this case, but it means that this combined with 1 little poke from the rain would be enough to take you out. And, I mean, we have a good lead here, but this is by far now their biggest, or at least most threatening card, because it can become their biggest card by significant margin. I mean, yes, the easy answer is to say, well, use Masterful Thunder. That's pretty expensive, though. And do we need it? I mean, all depends on how much of a chance we're willing to take here. So we're definitely doing this. That much we can say for certain. Question is, Ulfhedden on you or Ulfhedden on you for guaranteed value or potentially synergizing effect with the rain? Let's do Ulfhedden on you, and let's just see what number that gets us to here. It means we're up 34. They will take 2 damage from rain. They will take 1 damage from you. So we'll be up 37. Then we'll get boosted by 2 from the MELUSINE Cultist, so we'll be up 39. And they'll take 1 damage from this, which means we'll be up 40. So we'll get 10 points from this, worst case scenario, which means this last card needs to be a 30-point play. I think we're still good. Don't think we need Masterful Thunder. So you are going to live, but okay, that is pretty big. But I don't think it's going to be big enough. It is not big enough. Okay, we're fine. We're fine. Don't worry about it. Alright, so that first battle, of course, our deck is weakest for that, and it's always a chance to get a sense as to what this deck is going to be all about. So we, remember, lowered the total number of options we get for rewards from 3 down to 2. Ocfist is really good, though, so I do like that option. And we are definitely not removing either of you. We don't have the option to skip. So I suppose that is a bit of a compounding effect. Having fewer options and no option to skip means that if we find ourselves having to take something that's really bad, then it's more likely that that happens, and there's no way of getting out of it unless we reroll for energy, but Office is definitely good in this situation. One of our best cards, in fact, now with that addition. Now, that means, as we were saying, at this point it is largely a matter of what color place of power do we want? Is it blue or is it green? I thought blue was duplicate and green was strengthen, but I definitely, and by definitely I mean I almost certainly am wrong about that. So if we could duplicate a card, I mean honestly, Okvis duplicating that would not be a bad option. Duplicating a greatsword wouldn't be terrible either. Synthesis even. Cultist. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure which one we'd go for, but kind of like the idea of doing that. And technically if we go here, we have the option of going either green or blue. So why don't we do this? And we'll see what we get from the treasure chest. And only 2 options here as well. Spawn and play 3 random bronze units. We do have less row space. It was one of the downsides that we added, so it's a little less intriguing for that reason. And we did have Traveling Priestess on, if not our previous run, the one before that near the end. And so the spells that it gives you are the ones that you have. It's not like a random set of spells. And we do have some expensive ones. We get them for free, no energy cost. So that's kind of the benefit there. You get 5 power plus the, 6-ish, potentially more damage from Alzur's Thunder or Masterful Thunder. Or, a Cleanse at only 3 is probably not worth doing, but Portal could be nice. Get that for free. So, still don't think it's one of the absolute best options, but it's a way to save energy, which is nice. So I think it is still preferable, given how we have limited board space. Okay, so now we need to figure out what we're gonna do here. We can go place a power first and get stronger before we go into this battle, which may be worth doing. We're also on basically full energy, so I think we're definitely not gonna restore energy here. Let's try it. Is this duplicate? I thought it is duplicate. Okay, so we're definitely doing this. The question is, what do we duplicate? We can duplicate the key card. Ooh. Okay. It's kind of interesting. I mean, as I was just saying, it's good. I don't think it's one of the best key cards, so not necessarily sure it would be my go-to choice. Office is very tempting. I think that might be better. I think that is probably a better option. This is likely to play more than Greatsword is. Very likely to play more than Greatsword. Very likely to play more than Synthesis Blaze would. Ulfhedden upside is potentially bigger, but probably not going to look to do that. Cultist technically upside could be bigger, because if we can get a lot of those rain things happening, then getting more cultists could be a very nice way to load up on boosts and a little bit more damage. But I think we'll start with Hawkfist here, and maybe if we get subsequent blue places of power, there could be some good options there. And the other thing that does is, now that we've added another good card to our deck, we're more willing to remove some bad cards. So double Hawkfist is nice. And next will be this battle. So let's hop in. Someone has told me this once before on YouTube, somewhat recently, to the point where I have to ask if you were the person who gave me this YouTube comment, I don't know, like a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Yeah, so I've heard someone say that to me specifically once before. But, alright. We have a Gladiator here. We've encountered him several times before. He likes to play first turn, or at least can sometimes play first turn, the Redanian Knight, which he can damage by 2, removing its 2 armor, and in doing so, that deals 3 damage to one of our units, and then combine that with the 2 damage from his leader ability for 5 damage in 1 turn, which is a pretty big chunk. I think we want to get rid of the Panther here, because without Protoflutter, there's little to no reason to have you. There's one of the Octvis. We'll definitely take that. Like to have you. Do think that is a good inclusion for sure. We want 2 Berserkers, or, I mean, Cultists without Melusine. Well, even without... Well, yeah, Melusine gives the range. So Melusine will buff Melusine Cultist. Melusine Cultist will not yet buff Melusine until we upgrade Melusine. So this is still a Melusine synergy, just not in the direction that I was thinking of. No, it's your first time here? Okay, this was on YouTube that someone said that to me, but yes, specifically once before someone has said this to me, which is weird because been streaming for like 4 years at this point, and it had never come up until about a few weeks ago, and now it's come up twice in quick succession, so don't know what to make of that, but alright. Lots of Melusine Cultists. We would probably like to have Melusine in that case. So, ooh, one interesting option if we're expecting them to deal damage to us. I mean, maybe having that other Berserker would have been nice, because they hit us for 2, and Drummond Berserker is just going to transform. I mean, so we mitigate the damage. It means that we would otherwise take. We're not really dealing damage to any units, because they don't have anything on the board right now, so it's good in some ways, it's not great in other ways, but and it's cooldown too, so yeah, I think we do this just to dodge the damage for our first turn, and then it's safer to play the other guys on a subsequent turn, because their leader ability will not be active. And we might draw into Melusine, fingers crossed. And there it is, the exact play I was talking about. So they're going to remove the armor, which will deal 3 damage. Then they're going to have the damage... What? Wait, hold on. So he's on 5. Okay, so in multiplayer Gwent, this is another difference between Rogue Mage and multiplayer Gwent that I'm not sure why feels kind of deceptive, as has often been the case with these subtle but sometimes significant differences. In multiplayer Gwent, they would hit us for 2 damage, we would transform into the Bear Abomination. Then they would hit us again and they damage the Bear Abomination, but it would still be alive. Whereas instead what happened this time in Rogue Mage was they dealt both sources of damage to the Berserker, and it was not allowed to transform in between those 2 sources of damage, so it just died before it could transform. So, I mean, I deliberately played this card on the assumption that it would transform, because it would do that in multiplayer Gwent. So again, just don't like those difference. Like, why? Why is it different? Just make it the same. Why did you feel the need to make that different and have no explanation for that? But alas, we drew into Protoflutter, which does kind of still work by itself. As we saw in the previous match, we did not actually pair up the bleed from the Panther with it, so Office we'd like to play at the very end. Priestess, I mean, we don't really care about your shield anymore. You are functionally just a 1-power card right now. Yeah, we don't have great options at the moment, but maybe we do get the Cultist down on this turn while they're on cooldown on leader ability, so it's a little bit safer. I don't remember how much more damage he has. So he has what? He has a bunch of shields. He has the Artificer, which gives shields to units. Doesn't he have Black Rayla, which can deal 1 damage per turn, 2 damage per turn if she's boosted? I'm forgetting, Windhelm, who gets boosted from having a shield. But that's boost, no damage. He's mostly boost, right? I think. We're about to find out. There's Windhelm, okay. So yeah, he is someone we want to get rid of the shields on. There's Melusine. Okay, so that's great. So on one hand, we would like to be putting rain on this row, not this row. But I suppose, let's see, they're going to have leader ability back on their next turn, so even if we remove this shield now, they're going to bring it back on their next turn. So he's one of their biggest threats. He will continue to get boosted a lot. We don't have a great way to get rid of him immediately unless we were to go Sheila to remove shield, and then Masterful Thunder to actually deal damage, and maybe if that doesn't kill, we can go Rain on that row as well, but we'd like to use the Rain on next turn when we ideally get Melusine out here. What's up, Honor? How are you? Yeah, so basically you start out with you start out with one specific deck archetype to build from, and then over the course of the run, you'll get the chance to add or remove cards to your deck, in some cases upgrade existing cards that you have. And so in this case, so you unlock additional archetypes as you level up from completing other runs, and you also make more cards available from winning matches and whatnot. Just the option of cards becomes broader. So the archetypes do not necessarily align perfectly with the factions from multiplayer Gwent, although in some cases there's generally sort of a specific faction that is most similar. So like the archetype that you start with is Bulwark, and it is very boosting centric, so it feels very similar to a Northern Realms deck. And then in this one, this is the second one that you unlock. It is Savage Fury, which is a damage centric deck, and this is most similar in many ways to Skellige. And the other thing is that you have these overarching archetypes which affect what your starting cards are, and you have about 10-ish cards, maybe a little more than 10 cards in your starting, maybe like 15 cards in your starting deck. Not as many as you'd have in multiplayer Gwent, where you have 25. But you also have one key card that you can choose to select. So those are more powerful cards that are generally the ones that you're trying to build your deck around. And so those ones, similarly to the deck archetypes, there's one specific option that you start with, and then as you go on, you will upgrade, or you'll get additional options available to you as an alternative for your key card for that system. So, oh, and Forest Law, thanks for the follow. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Doing well, Honor. I'm taking the day off from, actually the week off from work, so a little bit of time to, sleep in a bit, went out on a short run, got cleaned up, took a shower, relaxed, and just, and got the chance to start a little bit earlier than usual for the stream, so that it felt nice. So I'm doing well. But yeah, so like usually for this deck, the starting key card is Dogger. So usually you'd have a bunch of damaging cards in your starting deck, and then Dogger is your key card, so he's getting boosted from all that damage. Then after that, you can unlock Unseen Elder for more bleed damage, but obviously less boosting centric. And then Melusine is the third card that you unlock for this archetype. So in this case, we're looking to go a little more in the weather effect side of things. However, the tricky thing with that is that there's actually only 2 weather effect cards in our starting deck, and those are these Melusine Cultists. So that's one thing that we need to keep an eye out for in this run, is we're hopefully going to find ways to get additional ones of these in. We had the option previously to create a duplicate of one of our cards, and so we had the choice of any card in our deck we could duplicate besides our key card. Couldn't make it another Melusine, unfortunately. But so was thinking about doing a second, or a third, in this case, Cultist, but opted for a second Ockfist instead, because I think it's safer. It's a safer option. Like, the value here is going to be pretty solid no matter what, whereas Melusine Cultist, if we happen to get Melusine, it's great. If not, then it's definitely considerably worse. And the other thing is that the cards, most of the time, are very similar to the cards that you have in multiplayer Gwent in how their abilities work, but sometimes they're slightly different. Like Melusine, you'll see, gives us Rain, but does not have the part where she increases her base power or damages adjacent units or anything like that. So in some cases, a little bit simplified, but the other thing is, if we go into some more difficult battles, elite battles, we can actually upgrade our key card. That's one other way that our key card is distinct from our normal cards, and so this will add in sometimes just raw numerical increases to our key card's abilities, but in other cases, totally new aspects to it, like Melusine at the moment is just pure rain damage, but if we do upgrade her, we can get her boosted up from having rain or other row effects on our opponent's side of the board. So we'll be looking at potentially doing that later on, but that is all an aside. So, Windhelm. What do we do about him? Yeah, safer but less memes. Okay, so why don't we... I think we might... And we also have, instead of a leader ability, we have energy. And energy we can use to cast spells, and depending on what spell we're talking about, they cost a different number of energy. So in the case of Cleanse, which boosts us, that's 3. In the case of Portal, which gives us a random unit to play, that's 6. In the case of Masterful Thunder, which gives us damage, that's also 6. So we're currently on 72 energy. Our maximum is 75, so we're still early on in the run, and that number is near its maximum. But we do need to be mindful of that, because it does not replenish automatically in between battles. We need to find places of power to do that. So that is a resource that we need to micromanage to a certain extent. But I think we might get rid of Windhelm here, because I think this is going to be potentially far and away their most dangerous card. So let's make sure that we deal with him. So they are going to get off cooldown on their next turn, which means they can reapply a shield. So if we don't destroy him, he's going to get a shield back, and he's going to go back to being a powerful engine. So let's use Masterful Thunder here. It's probably overkill damage. It is obviously a lot of energy, but it is enough to destroy him, and that means we'll deliberately save our damage, our order ability in Melusine Cultist, because this boosts cards, but only if we have Rain on the opposite row. And I mean, we could do that now and boost up Sheila, I suppose. I was kind of hoping we'd wait till we get Melusine down there to maximize the boost on her, but I guess with Sheila, it still works. Obviously, this turn we're going to just hit a shield, and it's not really going to give us much in the way of damage, but it is a boost. Yeah, so energy does not regenerate by itself, no.
I'll show you.
Okay. So now we're taking a bit of damage here, but let's get Melusine down. We'd like to do that as quickly as possible. So you're still going to boost both of these cards by 1. Yeah, and with all their shields, that's going to be difficult for our damage. I mean, we can ping them with a lot of rain, which should help get rid of the shields, but they keep on applying them and reapplying them, and that's going to be tough. But I think getting rid of Windhelm means they're not going to have anywhere near as much long-term potential, hopefully. Oh, we also had Traveling Priestess, which allows us to play a spell basically for free, so that might have been a better way. No, because we needed Sheila plus additional damage. So yeah, never mind. Previous turn, I think, still makes sense. 3 damage from Sheila. Remove the shield, and functionally get no damage out of it, or get rid of you when you're going to get destroyed by the rain anyway. I think, technically, the best case is to wait for them to play something else, but Sheila on 2 powers, obviously vulnerable. They are on cooldown, so they won't be able to hit us with that ability, but it's a little risky. Definitely a little risky. So yeah, you get destroyed by the rain. That's going to give them more shields, as I said. That is very much their thing.
That is what I serve first and foremost.
Okay, but we want to try to get rid of some of those shields, of course. And now we have Melusine's order ability we can use. So we can apply some rain. We'd like to keep rain on this row, so we get the boosts continuing to happen from this cultist. And in terms of what we want to play from hand, Berserker does give us more damage. I mean, actually, Octus is great for getting rid of shields. We could, once again, try to go Sheila, remove shield. You're on 7 power. Traveling Priestess gives us a free spell from the spells that we've selected here. So if we try Masterful Thunder, it is a range of damage, but it is possible. It is possible, if we get a little bit of a high roll, to still have enough to remove you. Could potentially do Okfist to set up damage with Sheila, yes. Kinda hoping we can save Okfist for when they have more units on the board and just go for pure damage there, but yeah, the shields, if they keep on loading up on more and more shields, then of course it's, you know, just getting rid of the shields to begin with is important, and Okfist is a good way to do that, but I'm hoping the rain can help us to do that a little bit more, and they were able to dish out an extra shield with Lady of the Lake, and they will with the Sentry and Artificer as well, unless we get rid of this guy now, and of course that's a one-time ability for both those guys. But with things like Drowned Berserker, poking them for damage, Rain poking them for damage, I'm hoping we might be able to, again, if we're patient, maybe just wait. Because now Sheila will continue to get boosted here every turn. So I think we'll do this. Well, actually, getting another cultist out here to get even more boosts would be nice, but Okay, this is also potentially a threat.
I'm itching for that.
Ooh. Yep, well, we will put a cultist where they just got rid of our cultist. Because, yeah, this guy will lose shields, or they can remove their own shields. And we are at risk of removing their shields for them. And in doing so, he'll get boosted. And when that happens, he gets up to an 8 now, which means that is kind of hard to get rid of you. So, I mean, if we were to go... If we were to do something like Ockfist here, remove your shield, you're up to 8. Sheila, drop you down to 5. They're on cooldown, so they can't put the shield back on their next turn. So then after that... we might be... I mean, we still don't have a big enough burst of damage. Unless we... Traveling Priestess? Okay, I think that's the plan. I think it is... Ockfist, Sheila, next turn Traveling Priestess. Or, I mean, as I was saying, get more boosts from the MELUSINE cultist earlier. We get that, so that would be nice. Especially when we still have rain and we have MELUSINE out here, so we can keep that rain going. But I think we're trying to shut this down. So, I think we still do that. It does boost you. But we hopefully will have the means to get rid of you on our next turn. Please don't. Okay. Whew. Please don't boost that guy up. Alright, so now we go Traveling Priestess. And with Traveling Priestess, we should have enough damage to take you out. If not, then the damage from MELUSINE Cultist is actually... or rather, from MELUSINE, is guaranteed to finish you off. And we don't have a Cultist on the board right now, so technically, there's no downside to putting Rain on a row that is not opposite to MELUSINE. So, we do that, then we do this.
Blessed be the sunrise.
We go for a free Masterful Thunder, and with this, we will get worst case scenario 4 damage, in which case the Rain will finish this off. Best case scenario, 8 damage, and we get some overkill damage on you. And, okay, it is worst case scenario, but we were prepared. We'll still go down to the Rain. So we've gotten rid of most of their engines here. Do they have anything to get the death blow on? They shouldn't. Oh, but then leader building does complicate things. So I think we want to get this cultist out here. Oh, and this, I mean, technically this is a synergy. Get the bleed and then get the bigger boost, but also we'd like to keep MELUSINE alive as long as possible, so I'd like to do this. It's not going to trigger immediately, but
Accept this offering that we might make the coast safely.
we have not put up many points on our side for what it's worth, which is a little concerning. Save, last save. So yes, they'll continue to take a little bit of damage from the rain, but we might need to get a little bit greedy here and continue to spend a bit more. I mean, it's not urgent on this turn yet, but our best tempo is Portal, probably. And that is a bit of a gamble still, so I think we need to be kind of careful here. Okay, you have a shield. So now what we can do is we can go MELUSINE, apply rain on this row, and Cultist, apply rain on this row, because that way we're getting damage on both of those things. Both of those groups of enemies. And their finisher can be, and I think we need to be prepared for it to be, Ragnar, who gets boosted based on the number of shields that he removes. So even if we're not dealing damage to the guys that have shields, it does potentially significantly weaken their finisher. So that's still not a bad option. I think we're looking at Panther here, range row. I know we're not going to have time for all the bleed, but it does make Protoflutter stronger. So I think that is probably still what we're looking for here. And might as well do it on their biggest unit. Okay, they're boosting, giving shields. They're boosting and giving shields. Thank you. Also, was it just me, or did it show us taking damage from... kind of looked like we took damage, not got boosted from the MELUSINE cultist. Was that just me? I thought I saw a red -1 on all the cards that were supposed to get boosted by 1. Maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me, but alas. Okay, so Proto Flutter now. We do this, and you do get a big boost. But, the thing is, maybe that was from their leader ability? I don't know. I think we have to assume this is Ragnar. We are going to get 2 boosts from you. You're going to take 2 points of damage here. 2 points of damage here. Wait, so 8-point lead, 10-point lead, 12-point lead, 14-point lead. You'll lose the shield. Ragnar should just be on base power, assuming it's him, and not something else, in which case I have no idea what it is. If it is Ragnar, we should be fine. If it isn't, we might not have enough. So maybe just to play it safe here, we'll just get a tiny bit more. Just get a tiny bit more points. Just a tiny bit more points here. Just in case. Just in case. It is Ragnar. Okay, I think we're fine. Because he should just be a 4. Okay, we're fine. Everything is fine. Don't worry. Okay, so that encounter down. This guy usually is not that difficult, but those shields were a little tricky with our rain. Okay, so now this is where usually you get the choice to either select between 3 cards to add to your deck, or select between 3 cards to remove from your deck. So you're looking to add something good or remove something bad. However, and you also usually have the option to skip this as well. However, we have added some difficulty modifiers here, and in doing so, it means we only have 2 options in either case, and we also have removed our option to skip. Sienna is very tempting. Do we have big deploy abilities, though? That's not deploy. This is deploy. But double down on the Traveling Priestess order. Oh, no, it's deploy, but right, deploy. So that means order does not work for Okfist. Can't combine that with Sienna. Would do Ulfhedden. Would do Protoflutter. That actually does kind of double dip, assuming you use the deploy ability on the same target. I mean, Sheila's not great, but theoretically... Yeah, we should totally do it on the Ankh-Great Greatsword. Yeah. That sounds like a great idea. Panther, I mean, these are our weakest cards for the most part. We'd like to just remove them. No deploy abilities there. Nothing huge on deploy. But there are some things, like double Traveling Priestess deploy wouldn't be bad. Ulfhedden, if our opponent has big targets, wouldn't be bad. They'd really need multiple big targets. Otherwise, this one has a negative synergy if you do it twice on the same card. Get diminishing returns. This one has boost compound. Maybe that's worth doing. Let's see what our options are. Oh, that's really tempting, though. As I just said, those are definitely our weakest cards. Love if we could remove both of them. We can only remove one, but I think we might need to do this. I think we'll have... Generally speaking, it is easier to add a good card than it is to remove a bad card. Because you're going to see all the various cards in your deck here. Or it's giving you options based on all the various cards in your deck here. So chances of it happening to give you your worst card are usually pretty low. So I think we do this. I think we do this. Yes, it had a little bit of a synergy with the Protoflutter, but as we were saying before, it was not the most feasible to actually make that happen. Alright, so here's our map, where we can see all the various encounters, and map our course toward, eventually, the boss battle at the end here. So that is our aim. So we have an event, which is a random encounter of some variety that could hopefully be good, but sometimes you get a good thing, you get a bad thing as well, and hopefully it works out a little bit more in your favor. Sometimes it's just outright bad. So then normal battle, which is what we just did. And if we want to, after that, we can do either another normal battle or an elite battle. Those are more difficult, but those are the places where you get to either choose a treasure card, which is a stronger card that you can add to your deck, or upgrade your elite card, or your key card, that being MELUSINE. So don't need to figure that stuff out just yet, but let's see what this event is all about. Ooh, I think this one is good. Mysterious Spring. I'm pretty sure we've gotten this before. In a secluded spring, water flows from the gnarled roots of an old tree. Upon seeing the pool, your mouth and throat dry, and you realize that you're rather parched. Oh, I remember this one. The spring looks especially thirst-quenching, yet you sense a magical aura surrounding the water. Should you take a sip anyway? Okay, I think I remember this one. So what happens is, this, although it looks like it's all fine and dandy, this is in fact one of the ones where, yes, you can get something good, but you will also have to pay a price. I believe you can transform a card, and in doing so, potentially, upgrade a bad card into something much better. However, then, if you want to leave after that, it's going to cost you some energy. Right now, we can leave, it wouldn't cost us anything. It's just a completely neutral, nothing happens. But if we transform a card and then leave, it costs us a little more energy. Alternatively, we can drink even more and transform another card, but then the cost to leave is going to be even higher. So, it's that, you know, how much of a risk are you willing to take? How much are you willing to sacrifice for it? So, and we did just remove one of our worst cards. So in some ways, you know, that would have been our preferred target to transform. We do still have one more Panther in our deck. So, if we could transform you into something else, that'd be nice. I don't remember how expensive it is. I think one round of drinking is not that expensive, but if we get carried away and just go transform, then it does get very, very expensive. And we have used a little bit of energy after that encounter. So let's do it once. And we do get to choose which card we transform, so I think we go for the Panther, right? Let's see. We got a Dolbathana Archer in return, so you cut the water into your hands and drink. It tastes delicious, like no water you've ever had before. Although you've quenched your initial thirst, you want to drink more. You need to. So yeah, here you see, we can leave, but it will cost us 5 energy, or we can continue to transform even more cards, and that means this cost to leave will go up. So the price gets steeper, but how much of an upgrade was that really? Got the Archer, which I don't really think was a great addition, to be honest. So it is random what it gets turned into. I forgot what the Panther's base power was. It might have just been 3, or at most 4. So we definitely have at least 1, possibly 2 more base power. The Panther had a deployability for 2 damage. So I think if we take that, it's slightly better because of the base power. Range row for Panther was 4 turns of bleed, and that was theoretically more damage if you had the patience to have that play out, but it also did synergize with Proto Flutter, which is why we were saying there's something to be said for those two working together, but we're losing that. We can potentially hit 2 enemy units for 1 damage. Would have been kind of useful to get rid of a bunch of those shields in the previous encounter, but I don't really think that was worth that much. Are there chance encounters where... I think this is kind of the closest thing to that, but, I mean, there are a wide variety of encounters you can get here, but I don't know if there are ever really times where, you know, the outcome is different based on your prior decisions. Don't really think that's the case. Don't think so, if that's what you're getting at. But I think we probably... I mean... At this point, if we were trying to transform a card, we would probably transform the card that we just transformed. And maybe it would work in our favor, but I mean, I think we kind of just took a gamble there and we whiffed. I imagine it's probably 10 energy, possibly as much as 15 if we press further here, and I'd rather not do that at this point. I think we cut it off now. Mustering sheer willpower from deep within, you come to your senses and force yourself to stop. That's enough mysterious magical water for today, you affirm, getting as far away from the spring as possible before the thirst returns. And the other reason why I was reluctant to go further was because, well, we potentially have 2 elite battles, one basically right after the other. So there's some serious potential here to make some upgrades, but that will be a difficult set of stuffs to do. Oh, yes, I think there are. Like in that encounter, I knew that we were going to have the chance to transform a card, but it was going to cost us energy. But obviously the card that it transforms into was totally random, so we didn't get a very good one that time around. For the most part, it feels like usually you tend to do better than that, but there are other ones that are just purely, you know, what the actual outcome is more random, or if it's not random, then it's more mysterious and I haven't figured it out yet. But let's hop into this battle and see what we end up with here. Fallen Hero, I think this guy is usually one of the first ones, and is generally not that difficult, but it's been a while since we faced him, I think. Let's see. Spawn and play a Disgrace Knight whenever you play a unit boosted by 1. Disgrace Knight is 1 power. Spawn 2 copies of self in this row. Boost now on unit by 1. Okay. So he floods with tons and tons of units. It does have a fair bit of boosting. In theory, our weather effect should be decent against him. And Okfist should be amazing against him. So with no shields, I think Okfist is a fantastic finisher. Or assuming they don't have much in the way of shields. Okfist could be a fantastic finisher to damage all enemy units if they have, you know, 1 or 2 rows full or near full, and that could be crazy value. Like the Traveling Priestess, that is strong. We are probably going to dump this Silverton Archer. Yes, we could maybe benefit from the range row. Yeah. Oh, but they're going to boost every time they play one of these guys, so it's actually going to be 2 power, so range row is not going to be enough to take out 2 of them. We'd have to go melee row to get rid of 1. It does still deny them that order ability, which is worth 1 additional point. So it's what, 3 or 5 point body, 2 point damage, that's 7. Deny the boost for 1 point, that's 8 points total. You are 5, 2 points of damage, that's 7. Then you convert into Bear Abomination, which is 1 higher point than you were starting off with, so it's really 8 on net, so you're functionally the same. I think we might dump you. Greatsword, definitely good. Definitely very good. I think we'll still probably get rid of one of these Berserkers, though. And there's another Okfist. Okay, that's huge. So this is potentially the exact circumstance in which we were hoping to have a card like Okfist. This was not in our starting deck, for what it's worth. It was our first reward that we got, and then we immediately duplicated it when we got the chance to. So I do like them, but I think we will definitely want to save them. And I get the sense this guy is mostly boosts. But I'm tempted to go Greatsword first and hope that they don't have the damage to hit him, because he will be vulnerable initially.
I once lopped off 3 heads with 1 blow.
We might come to regret this. Can they destroy him? Fingers crossed they can't. Okay, no, all boosts. All boosts. Yeah, that's a lot of them. That's a lot of them. Okay, so if we can get you unboosted, uninspired, that means you will no longer get boosted every turn. Now, these guys, of course, can give boosts, so that means that they could give you a boost after they could re-inspire you if we were to target you now. So on one hand, Sheila to drop you down below your base power is tempting. On the other hand, they're going to completely counteract that on the next turn. On the other hand, we could Traveling Priestess and use that to get a free Masterful Thunder. Hit you, the overkill damage is guaranteed to kill all these guys. That gets rid of, what, 4 points immediately and 3 points of boost, so it plays for 7. Still not amazing, seeing as how Masterful Thunder can deal up to 8 damage on 1 target alone, so that's maybe not the best use of that. Maybe we just go Drone Berserker and hope that the random damage happens to hit one of these 1 power guys and take him out. I think that might be the hope here. And then with that damage, we'll heal up the Greatsword a little bit more. There we go. That's nice. Okay, Rayla does have damage. I think we might want to get rid of her, or do something to mess with her in general. Okay, so Protoflutter does have less setup than it had before now that we've gotten rid of all of our Panthers. So yes, it'll be a 7-point body and it'll have 3 points of bleeding. It basically means we're actually going to want to play you on the earlier side to have time for all that bleeding to occur. So you deal extra damage if you're inspired. And they no longer have units. Wait. I want to play a Disgrace Knight whenever you play a unit. Oh, they only do this at the very beginning. I assumed this was on the cooldown. They were going to do it every turn. But they don't? Okay. All right. In that case, we hit you for 3, or hit you for 3. Neither of you are inspired anymore. I mean, they're probably gonna have other cards that can boost, but still. What do we prioritize? You're gonna continue to get boosted more. So you're harder to catch if we continue to let you be inspired, whereas you will stay on 8 power. Yes, more damage, but it's not a huge deal against a greatsword, which I'm kind of hoping is going to be the target they go after, even though that's kind of silly for them to do. So I think if we'd go Sheila here on you to remove the inspiration. Sheila would be a good target for them to hit with Rayla, but wouldn't be enough for them to destroy her altogether, or at least not yet. There's going to be 1 random damage here as well. Who do they hit with? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, that's more boosts. Yes, they will find another way to inspire him. That's not that surprising, I suppose. So, Cultist with no Melusine is not great, is the problem. That is the problem. So, and we can remove the inspiration on Rayla, but with this armor, this Malcolm Defender is pretty much uncatchable at this point. So, I think we're going to hit you. And then drops you to 5. I'm wondering if that's maybe a Priestess into Thunder situation. Probably like for that middle unit to be a little bit lower still. So, is there something that makes more sense long term? I mean, getting Berserkers down early is nice. Still something to be said for getting Cultists down earlier. Do want to play you a little bit early. These are going to be the last 2 cards in all likelihood. Yes, we can just do this. We'll hit you. And if your random damage happens to hit Rayla, that's kind of convenient. It does. And yes, please hit him. Okay, spawn in all the units you'd like. We do have good counters for that. Now, we did get the Archer, which... I mean, we might prefer melee row. Damage you by 2. And then that sets up a big overkill hit from the Priestess on you. That's kind of tempting. It does mean that Rayla is staying alive for a little bit longer, and we're giving them the chance to maybe boost her up on their next turn, but we'll see. And they're still hitting you, which I love. So you're just going to heal it off. So now I think it is Priestess, Thunder on you, overkill damage, which we're guaranteed to get at least some of, is, I mean, probably just going to hit the armor on you, but it will deal some damage to you. We could go for the Radovit's Royal Guards, but then we run the risk of not getting rid of Rayla. It's at least guaranteed to be 1 overkill damage, so, you know, worst case scenario is on 1 power, which is unfortunate, but, I think we still do it. I think we probably still do it. On Rayla, I should specify. Let's guarantee we get rid of Rayla. And it was enough overkill damage to destroy the Radovit's Royal Guards and at least get rid of your armor. I think it must have been, what, 3 overkill damage exactly? Okay, so we got rid of one of their engines. They do still have this guy. He is still gaining value. And they will continue to invest further in him. So, you need some time, you need some time. You need more time? You need about the same amount of time. Let's do this. And, I mean, we're not going to be able to uninspire you, so it might still be the target, but it's not going to make a huge difference, I don't think. Okay, Temple Guard is more boosts. Then we want you. And we'll give boosts to adjacent units once we start using this. Ooh, damage. 3 damage. It's not enough to remove you, but it is very close. At least enough time to get that off. And now it's Okfist time, and so these are our big finishers, and we are still behind, which is a little concerning, but, you know, that is in part because we saved our best card for last. But I think we're going to have to see Where does this leave us? We'll have one more on our next turn, yes, but we might need to invest a bit more here. And potentially, I mean, there are good opportunities for more of the Thunder, for sure, because they have lots of weak cards, so there's high potential for the overkill damage. But, and again, the armor on you makes this unfortunate. Kinda like for it to be, well, you're weaker, so it's more likely to get the overkill, but then overkill might be overkill on you. Think either way we should wait. If that is what we're planning to do, we should wait until we play Ocfist, because then we can weaken them even further. If we wanted to use Portal, then that would make sense to do now, or if we felt the need to, like, cleanse you, but I think we can... Oh, wait. Okay. Cancel. There we go. So still the rain damage, there's still the boost. Visigurd, we would like to get rid of.
Princess.
We would definitely like to get rid of Visigurd. Well, he actually doesn't have that many charges for what it's worth. He's going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 charges, 4 damage. So if we destroy him, 6 power unit, and deny 4 damage, so it's a 10-point play. Maybe overkill damage on you, but say roughly 10-point play. Versus, if we were to say hit, do the Ocfist, drop you down to ooh. The problem is we need one weak unit that is next to big units, and that's really only the case for you. But with that armor, it's still not ideal. I mean, yes, Ocfist removes the armor, I guess. So then, there you go. Ocfist, guaranteed to get 2 damage if you thunder you. Guaranteed to at least get 2 overkill damage on each of you. That's 2, 4, 5. Wait, 2, 4, 6. I can do math, I swear. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, it's 8 damage, which means it's gonna be, you're gonna get dropped to 2 from Ocfist, so that's 6 overkill on you. 6 overkill, or well, 4 really, so 10 plus 2 is 12. Best case scenario is only slightly better, and it is definitely riskier. So I think we're still looking at Ocfist and then Thunder on you. I want to be really clever. Thunder on you, and maybe it's enough overkill to take you out, but that's definitely still a risk. Technically not guaranteed to destroy Visigurd here. I think, yeah, we have a decent lead, yes, but remember, not only will they have these charges, they will also have their last card here because they have last say, so I think we probably do need to do this. Take him out. Okay. Should be safe now. Think we should be safe now. Yeah, and Scytheman does not have a lot of stuff to get boosted from, fortunately for us. So we're fine. Okay, so Fallen Hero down. See what we can add or remove. Vincent set a non-boosted enemy unit's power down to 1. Make it much easier to take care of it. Or damage 3 adjacent enemy units by 1, or if there are 3 damage units on the board already, then damage all units on a row by 1 instead. That is a lot of damage. It is basically, with setup, half the value-ish of Ocfist. So it's not as good. But it is also a way to punish our opponents for going wide. And no, we're definitely not removing you. Probably not removing you either. So I think it's probably Vincent, though. I mean, yes, oftentimes when our opponent has a big unit, it's boosted. And that's why it's big. But not only is this just for reducing our opponent's point total, I think it's also to facilitate destroying what is otherwise a dangerous card, even if it doesn't necessarily pose a threat from its power standpoint. You know, maybe it has a really powerful order ability or something like that that it is about to use. So I think we take you. And that, I believe, yes, would be our last encounter before this elite battle, if we want to go that route. So this is, again, a chance to upgrade MELUSINE or get a strong treasure card in our deck, but would require that we face a difficult enemy to do that. And so that is a risk we have to weigh. And then if we wanted to, soon thereafter, we could go straight into another elite battle. No opportunity to restore energy in between those. So that is, unless this event happens to give us that opportunity, but that is also quite risky for that reason. After that, we get a treasure from the treasure chest, which is nice, but still a battle after that, and only then might we go this way to get some energy restored from this place of power, but that is scary. That is definitely very high risk. And I just don't really feel like our deck has really kicked off yet. I mean, yes, Okvis has been helpful, for sure, but feels like, you know, it's hard for us to pull away from our opponents here. So we don't have boosts, or, you know, we've very little in the way of boosts. We have healing from the Greatsword, and we have some boost from the Cultists when we have MELUSINE out there with them. But other than that, it's not like we're ever really putting up huge point totals where we feel like we have a big margin for error and we're safe and we don't need to spend much in the way of energy, and that's in large part, I think, why we've already spent a fair bit of energy from just normal battles. But I think at least this one, maybe we'll give it a shot, and then we'll see how we're feeling after that, because we may not be in a place to take on this elite battle afterward, but who knows? We shall see. Which elite enemy is it? Maxi.
Rotten to the core.
Okay, so she spams special cards and has lots of damage, if I remember correctly. She'll spawn and play a card from Maxi's arsenal, which is basically all damaging special cards. And then she also has Johnny and Sarah, who deal damage and boost their units respectively when they play a special card. So basically special card synergies. If we can take those guys out, then that is much safer for us. So something like Synthesis Blaze to give us a big burst of damage. Once they get those units out there, would be nice. Sheila as well. Okfist, yes. Nice for the damage, but I think we need a little more targeted damage on one specific unit. I mean, not bad to have one of them specifically, but I think loading up on this and relying on it to be our key winning play like it was in the last match is not going to be the case. Stump you. I mean, it's not bad, but it's also not good. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely... Gwent has... obviously, there's Witcher 3 Gwents, which is a little bit... It's actually pretty different from multiplayer Gwents, and I suppose Rogue Mage is more similar to multiplayer Gwents than it is to Witcher 3 Gwents, but definitely still some differences there as well. Do we dump you? You're not bad, but you're also not really good. Which makes me conflicted. You're not very good unless we have MELUSINE. And they have a lot of damage, so I think they're capable of getting rid of you before you have the chance to give us much value. Not that you're much better, and there is MELUSINE. Alas, of course, no way of knowing that was going to be the case, but I think what we will start off with is Synthesis. And we would like to use Synthesis to destroy the Johnnies or Sarahs, because I'm expecting those to come out soon. So I think we will prioritize this for the targeted big burst of damage, and we probably do need to make a point of boosting you up with a cleanse preemptively. Otherwise, we run the risk of you getting destroyed, because they will have some damage as well. And you do need to stay on the board. Spawn Rabid Wargs and boost them. Okay, so they are going wide. Snowdrop. Draw 2 cards, shuffle 2 cards back, same as multiplayer Gwent, but the problem there is that Snowdrop, oh well, in Rogue Mage, you draw cards every turn for 4 more turns, unlike in Gwent multiplayer, so she will continue to get stronger. So I think we might need to break out Sheila here. I think we might need to go Sheila, damage for 3, and then use 3 of Synthesis' charges. And then that should still give us enough firepower that if they play another engine on their next turn, we can remove that too, with Sheila's Order and the remaining charges from Synthesis Blaze, I think.
My studies are more important than this.
Okay. So not gonna bother with these wargs at the moment. They shouldn't be too much of an issue. We would like to get Melusine out here pretty early as well, obviously. Francesca. Well, that's potentially an issue. Ooh, well, here is exactly what we want Vincent for. Set a non-boosted enemy unit power to 1. Yes, that's a 7 power non-boosted unit, so that's 6 points of value already. But that's good, not great. I mean, that's an 8-point play when you consider his 2 base power. But more importantly, it means we can just poke Francesca once with the synthesis and take you out. So we are definitely going to do that. And he's row locked for the melee row in multiplayer Gwent, but he's not in Rogue Mage, so I was tempted to play him over there, but... Alright, so down goes Francesca. So we have denied them, thus far, their engines. But we have not put up many points on our side just yet. So that, of course, this is an elite battle, so this is what we're saving up our energy for, encounters like this. So... I mean, this is probably not a time for Thunder. I mean, we could Thunder and potentially get a fair bit of overkill, and if we high roll, we actually can destroy all of them, which would be pretty sweet, but that's not super likely and probably not a great use of energy. Sheila's a little bit vulnerable here because they're about to use their leader ability, so they might be able to destroy her, but she's already done some good. I mean, sure, we'll go cleanse on Sheila just to try to protect that damage. Yeah, let's do it. It's cheaper than the other options, energy-wise, so feels a little bit safer. Botchling is a little bit of damage. And we do not quite have sufficient damage to destroy... Oh, I now remember that they have that card. I remember seeing it last time we encountered Maxi. Incredibly powerful. Multiplayer Gwent is very similar to Witcher Gwent for quite some time. Yeah, it's changed over time, though, right? I think initially, like, the beta multiplayer Gwent was quite similar to Witcher Gwent. Like, Witcher 3 Gwent, most notably, or the most obvious thing is it has 3 rows, melee, ranged, and siege, whereas multiplayer Gwent and Rogue Mage only have 2 rows. But have you, I know, have you played Witcher 3? Sounds like you have, and sounds like you played multiplayer Gwent as well. Okay, so we do still have Sheila, which I suppose technically she had, I think, more damage remaining than Synthesis did, so I guess technically that's not a terrible thing, but I was hoping to go Sheila and Synthesis to weaken you and then take you out on this turn as well, which is technically still possible. So we are continuing to deny them their engines. The problem is that we aren't really putting up much on our side to counter that. So we're just kind of treading water, it feels like. So, I mean, yes, we can do this, and I think we will, but it still feels like we need to do something to not just limit their points, but actually put up points on our side as well, and that's where Melusine Cultist plus Melusine would be great, but we just have been prioritizing getting rid of their stuff first, so I think maybe we might get a little more aggressive here and try a portal and see if we can get something that gains value over time. Yes, we can damage 3 adjacent units. You have decent base power and some bleed. Do we have Protoflutter? We do have Protoflutter. And these are both cards that give us bleeding, which does synergize a bit with Protoflutter. On the other hand, we were just saying how, if anything, we'd like to get Melusine Cultist out here quickly. And Protoflutter is not Melusine, nor is it Melusine Cultist. Might actually go Panther, though. Panther, range row, target the middle Rabid Warg, and then that potentially sets up, if we like, an easier way to get a big value Masterful Thunder. Weird as that seems. Played multiplayer Gwent several years ago, stopped because weren't really feeling it after a couple of weeks. Okay, well, this is the card that I was referring to before, Sarah. That was the one that I was thinking we would want to target. Traveling Priestess does give us the damage to guarantee we can get rid of her for what it's worth. It does mean we are further delaying MELUSINE and MELUSINE Cultist, which, again, I don't feel great about, but this will give them a lot of value, so I think it is probably still worth doing.
The world is an open book.
And unless we want to take our chances on Portal and see if that happens to give us damage, but that's a risk that I think is probably not worth taking. Wish they played Sarah next to other units so we could get the overkill damage, but we'll have to settle for just getting rid of her. Whenever your opponent plays a special, damage all enemy units by 1. Okay, well, we've fortunately just used Traveling Priestess. Deal a random card into your deck if it's a unit whose self-applies power for special or artifact, play it. Okay, well, they did play it. It was that Marigold's Hailstorm, which hit 5 units for 2 damage, which is pretty impactful. Pretty impactful there. Now, I mean, Rabid Warg does remain a decent option for a Thunder, but now that they have this, we pay a pretty steep price for using any specials. So I think now may finally either be time for Protoflighter, big boost on you, or breaking out MELUSINE plus the Cultist. I think this is still worth more points per turn. I think this is still a higher priority than getting a bigger Protoflighter. I think it is. I think it probably is. Okay, mark an enemy and give it bleeding. Mark is basically bleed, or it makes bleed deal more damage, right? Makes whenever a unit receives with this status receives damage from another source, repeat the instance of damage once. I mean, fortunately they did it on Panther, which is not a card we care about at all. So that's fine. Now we're definitely going to do MELUSINE Cultist though, and
Hear my prayer.
do this.
Fill me with strength.
So that will start boosting stuff. Finally, we have a way to do that. If we want to get the overkill damage, we should have done that before we play the units, because that means now we're going to take more damage on more units. Is it still worth it? So it's worst case scenario, it's 4 damage, which means we remove you and get 3 overkill damage on the 2 of you for a total of 7. Or, well, really, this is going to die anyway, so it's functionally 6 points of value. We take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of damage. Really wish I didn't play these guys first, or at least if I was thinking about using the special, that I did it preemptively. Best case scenario, it hits for 8. That kills you and kills you. That's functionally 9 damage, because this doesn't really matter. That's still not great. Still not great. Not loving it. Not loving it. Okay, we really don't want to play special cards now. I'm getting the idea. It's not really something we want to do here. Fortunately, we can still get value out of these guys, even without that. Okay. So the tricky thing about that is that it does make it really hard to catch them if we do find ourselves falling behind here. So, yeah, like, Ocfist is probably still finisher. Protoflighter, I mean, we should technically play you now, so we get the bleed damage as well. So, if we have any intention of trying to set up a Thunder, I should probably do that on you. So you actually have a unit on either side of you right now. But this is looking a little scary at the moment. This is looking a little scary at the moment. I think we just lost, because we very much needed those boosts. Otherwise, I am not sure we would be able to catch them. Okay. So, I mean, we only have 4 units. So if we do take 2 damage on every unit, it's only 4 damage, right? It's only 4 damage, right? Can you do that in, I don't know, you portal or something? I mean, maybe we wait further? Maybe we deliberately wait as long as possible to see if they destroy other units, in which case we are more willing to use spells, because at least at that point, they are less likely, or they will deal less damage to ourselves. I mean, in theory, having Drum and Berserker on the board when we do that is not a terrible thing, because it would just hit its, or it would transform. Except we've seen before that that's not necessarily always the case. Yeah, so you know, we'll see. Yes, the special cards are basically spells, or in some cases, organic cards is technically the name of that. But basically, not people, not units. There are units, which are the cards that have power when you put them directly on the board. There are specials, which are spells, organic, which is basically just a different category of that stuff. This Poison Dagger is technically a special as well. It's this icon here is the icon for special. The other thing that they've actually done as well is Artifact, which is the icon for this. This is not a special, it is not a unit. It's a card that stays on the board when you play it, but it doesn't directly have value, unlike a unit. So you can't destroy it in the same way you could destroy a unit. It doesn't directly give them points, but it has another effect that remains in play as long as this is on the board, and this is what is making it so that we deal damage to ourselves if we are to use any spells. So, yeah. For what it's worth, it's interesting because this is not, we've seen many cards from Maxi that we've not seen before. I've never seen her use these Mage Slayers, I don't think. Seen the Poison Daggers before. Not sure I've seen Snowdrop. So, definitely threw some surprises at me. Boosting out unit by 5 and give it Defender, so we can't target anything other than this. Fortunately, we don't have much in the way of boosted cards, but you will try to steal our boosts on this guy. It's 3, so we're going to lose 3 boosts. You're going to gain 3 boosts on that, which means that is worth net 6. But the only way we can destroy you would be with a spell, and playing a spell means damaging all of our cards by 2, which means that's -5. Technically, you'll transform into a 6. It's really -4. I mean, if we use a spell... Oh, here's a thought. Here's a thought. We use a spell, but we don't use that spell to target you, because in doing so, we damage ourselves by 2. That means you're dropped down to just a 5, so it's a 1-point boost. It's not a big deal if you steal 1 point's worth of boosts. And Runarify, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the follow. Hope you're enjoying the stream. I think what we actually do here is we use... Oh, thanks for the sub as well. Can elites be stronger? So normal battles, yeah, so normal battles can be either a normal version or a hard version. So that's what you're thinking of there, Nor. We've not actually seen any normal battles that have had the hard version. The elites are usually harder than the hard version of enemies. They are usually the hardest outside of... Honestly, the boss fights are usually not even as difficult as some of the elites. But, as I said, we've seen some cards here from this specific elite that I did not remember seeing in the past. I think what we do, though, we use a spell deliberately to damage ourselves. Well, partially to do that. To get value from damaging them with a Thunder here, maybe, although the overkill damage is not great in that instance. Or Portal to get another unit on the board. But what that does is it damages all of our units by 2, which means this is going to drop down to a 5, so it's only boosted by 1. So even if you live, which you probably will, because I'm not necessarily trying to target you right now, you steal 1 unit, or you steal 1 power, and absorb it, so it's a net 2-point play rather than a net 6-point play. So I think that's a way of minimizing the effect of Regis, while also getting some other beneficial effect. The question is, do we go for Thunder on you for damage or Portal and take our chances on getting something else that's good. Because worst case scenario, we hit you for 4. 1 damage here, 1 damage here. It's actually not even that good because it means there are fewer units for the rain to hit. It's only going to hit 1, so we're actually reducing the effect of the rain. I don't love that. But Portal is a big question mark. We have no idea what we're going to get out of it. But I think we might have to go that route. I'm also not sure, order of operations wise, if the damage from the Mage Slayer happens before we play the card from Portal or after. So is that card going to get damaged as well? I don't know. We're about to find out. I want the damage to proc now. Preferably, right now, before we actually play the card. Except it doesn't look like it will. One-Eyed Betsy does give us damage. It has armor, gives us even more damage. That is enough to destroy Regis. I mean, we did kind of make this play specifically to counter Regis. So, it's not great from that sense. You do have armor. So if you do take the... I mean, so do you. So I guess the damage from the Mage Slayers are not going to be that big of a deal on either of these guys. Ruxa gives us bleed, which is not really going to have time to benefit us much. In the Thrive, we can boost once when we play Hawkfist, but that's really not a big factor. So I think it's you. Okay, the damage does happen before we play you, so that is good. I mean, as we said, I guess it doesn't actually matter. There's the transformation, so that's one of the reasons why I wasn't too averse to going this route. Then we remove you, because you were the most valuable card that they still had. And then it's Hawkfist, and oh boy, do I hope that their finisher is bad. Because we have an 8 going to be 2 points of damage, so 10-point lead, 1 point of damage, 11-point lead here. So, if we used Zeal, we'd get on the board, and then we'd be able to use the ability immediately upon going on the board, but that definitely would have meant that deploy abilities technically trigger before Zeal abilities do. So, yes, we could have used the boat and still had time to use it, but it would have potentially gotten hit by these. It wasn't a big factor anyway, because both of them had the armor to tank that hit, but we do not have a lot of points. They're going to take a little more damage when everything is said and done, but it depends entirely on what the heck that finisher is. It's Lacerate, which is damage. Oh, boy. Oh, that was close. That was close. Oh, man. Alright, so we can either upgrade Melusine, our key card, or we can get a treasure. Raven's Armor, which gives automatically all of our units 2 additional armor. So, I mean, in an encounter like that where they're running a ton of damage, that could have been really useful. But Melusine's upgrade makes it so that at the end of our turn, she boosts herself by the duration of row effects on the opposite side. So she gives us a rare opportunity to actually get boosting cards. Her, along with those Melusine cultists, suddenly makes those cultists even more powerful still. So I think we do probably want to go this route. I think we probably do want to upgrade you. I mean, this is very situational. If your opponent is running a damage check like we just saw, then it could be very useful. If not, then it could quite literally give you no additional value. Obviously, in this case, we need to draw into Melusine to benefit from this, but obviously, we're trying to draw into Melusine whenever we can, because she is our key card. So I think we still take this. So that's one elite battle down, but here's the thing. We could potentially hop into another elite battle almost immediately thereafter. We have about half of our energy. We actually didn't spend that much in that encounter because for much of it, we saw that we're going to get punished from doing so because she's basically an anti-spell character. So we have this event in between. Who knows what that might do? There's a chance it could remove energy. It might give us a chance to gain energy. Technically, we could go here, and if something bad happens on this event, we could instead opt for this normal battle, which might be a little bit safer. If we go to this elite battle, we can further upgrade Melusine or get a different option for a treasure. Let's see. We should be able to see what the next upgrade for Melusine would do. So now she does the boosting. At the end of your turn, let's see. Spawn Storm, Oh, spawn Storm on an enemy row for 2 turns. That is not the same as Rain. Storm damages all units on a row by 1, whereas Rain damages 2 random enemy units by 1. So if our opponent has a lot of units, then that means that Storm is substantially better. Like, there's the maximum number of units in a row is 9. So the maximum damage from Rain is 2, by definition. It can only hit 2 enemy units by 1. Storm could do 9 damage per turn, which is awesome. Then it's still cooldown 2, and still boosts self by the duration of row effects in the opposite row. Okay. That's pretty nice. So if we were to complete this elite battle, then we would get that upgrade. Then we have potentially further elite battles later on. We could further upgrade MELUSINE if we really wanted to. Or we could say, well, maybe we skip this one, and instead we try to target one of these. Is that even an option? Do we have the means to path that way? So if we go here, I don't think we can do this. I don't think we're allowed to do this, so we miss this one in that case. Would still hit this one, but that's right before the boss. I do not want to do an elite battle right before the boss, because presumably we're going to want to try to be restoring energy before the boss battle, and that means that is exactly the opposite of what we'd like to be doing. I mean, maybe if we target all these elite battles and we get a whole bunch of energy back, or we get a whole bunch of upgrades, rather, we might not need to spend much energy in the future because our deck will hopefully get substantially stronger. But what if we take our chances on this elite battle, but then we say, is there any way to bail? Now, if we go to this one, we are required to go here, we're required to go here, we're required to go here. So if we take this elite battle, we are required to take this elite battle as well, and that one's right before the boss. As I said, I'm not a big fan of that. So I think what we might want to do is take our chances on this one, and then instead of going here, go treasure chest, and then go the southern route down here where we have at least this place of power and this one right before the boss battle, which I do like. So that does give us a chance to restore some energy. So we have a lot to spare going into that fight. I think that is the right way to go about doing it. Tempting as it may be to try 4 elite battles in one run, I just don't think our deck is strong enough to do that. So let's see what happens from this event. It's the Gambler. While stopping at an inn for the night, a local high roller invites you to play dice with him. So we can either lose 10 energy or gain 10 or decline. Well, I mean, if we lose 10 energy, we definitely lose the next elite battle. I think that is probably more than we can spare to lose right now. If we gain 20 energy, great, but I mean, we fare much better against the elite battle, but I'm not sure that that's a big, and I think it's a bigger deal to lose 10 energy than it is to gain 20 in this specific instance where we are about to hop into elite battle. I think we need to decline. In no mood to gamble, you refuse his invitation and retreat to your room. So there's another example of an event where, like, technically, I mean, you know what the potential outcomes are, yes, but it can vary, obviously, what you get out of it. So, yes, exactly. So something like that. That one, very upfront with, you know, what you might get and what you might not get, or, you know, what the potential outcomes might be. But there are other ones where it's more mysterious than that, for sure. So now it's, I mean, I think we go for it. I think we try it. We are very dead. We have lost the run. There is no way we can beat Failed Experiment right now. This is possibly the hardest enemy in the entire game. We are probably toast. On the other hand, he is an absolute RNG lord. Everything that he does is all down to RNG. And if we luck out, and he happens to low roll on all of his RNGs, then we might be able to sneak by. But otherwise, we are in for a lot of trouble. A lot of pain, a lot of hurt. In fact, this was the enemy that ended our previous run, or the last one that we lost. So this does make me a little nervous. We do draw into a good starting hand here, for what it's worth. Vincent lowering a card down to 1, which could set up the destruction on something like Synthesis Blaze or even Melusine. Love to see Melusine early, but need to make sure she stays alive, of course. Greatsword can get healed up from the damage that we can do with all of these guys. Technically, this is not damage, but we'd like to have Cultists to go along with Melusine at this stage, but not sure I'd be willing to risk losing any of these guys to make that happen, so I think we might just stick with this and hope that we draw into a Cultist or two.
Guide my hand.
Okay, it's Protoflutter. So what he does is that he has a leader ability that changes over the course of the match. Every turn, he'll have a different thing. He has basically 3 different forms. One form boosts a random one of his cards by a random number, which can be as low as 1 or as high as 9. He has a form that can damage one of our units by a random number, which I believe the range is also low end 1, high end 9. And then his other form will, it's either spawn in a random unit or transform one of his units into a random unit. So all of that is very RNG centric. That's just from his leader ability. Then in terms of his cards, he can spawn in, he had what, the Caravan Vanguard, which just spawns a bunch of copies of itself and gets stronger from having multiple copies. And it's mostly just a way for him to have recipients to transform. Okay. I don't remember if he can use his leader ability on his first turn, because he is just showing his untransformed form at the moment. So, like, for example, are we safe to play something like Melusine on this turn and not have to worry about the damage potentially taking her out, or not? Then the vials. The vials. This is our neutralizing serum. So what we can do with these is we have 2 of them, and we can basically completely negate his leader ability for 1 turn with each of these vials. So what you need to do is you need to establish which one of his forms is most threatening, and when you see that pop up, that's when you neutralize it. If you just go and activate this whenever you like, then you might end up neutralizing a form that doesn't really pose much of a threat, and it's a wasted opportunity. For example, generally speaking, I think the damaging form is the most concerning, because that is capable of, since it has the potential to deal so much damage in 1 turn, it is capable of getting rid of one of your most important cards immediately. So that's why I say, like, are we safe playing something like Melusine on turn 1? And, you know, if he happens to transform into the damaging form, can he use that on the same turn? Or do we have a turn to sort of see and acknowledge what it is, have the option of maybe using neutralizing serum and reacting to it? Or is it just a total dice roll? We have no idea what's going to happen on this turn. They're going to immediately not only transform, but get the chance to use it. So, yeah, what I'd like to do is neutralize the damaging form, and that way we can make sure, or at least protect, cards like Melusine, cards like, if we get the Cultists out here, Greatsword even before he gets healed up. I mean, unless he's fully healed, he is technically in removal range. So Synthesis needs a turn before she can use all of her abilities. At least Vincent can activate his ability immediately, but yeah. And so then when you use it, he goes back to this alpha form that doesn't do anything for 1 turn. But I think we need to go Melusine first. It's either that or Synthesis Blaze first, because when combined with Vincent, that can give us good removal, but I think we want to get Melusine early. We want to get Melusine as early as possible. So last time we faced this guy, I did not immediately neutralize his damaging form, and he destroyed some of our key cards early on, cards that generate value over time. So given that mistake, he also just high rolled like crazy and absolutely annihilated me. So I will hydrate, and I will cleanse, so that if Melusine does get hit, the only way Melusine is getting destroyed is if you get transformed into your damaging form and you get the perfect damage roll. They might have additional damage on top of that, but I thought I remembered the cards he plays from hand are actually not that good. It's mostly just that his leader ability is absolutely insane. Okay, so here he transforms. That is damage. And it was 6 damage. So if we had not boosted MELUSINE there, she would have died. So now, whenever you play a card, spawn a random unit on a random allied row. So this is the spawn in a random unit form. So I think this form is the least threatening. So I think we're okay with this. I think we're still okay with this. And I think that means we have a brief window in which to play some cards relatively safely. Relatively safely. So we won't neutralize him because we only have 2 possible times we can use the serum. So this is not the time to do it. I think it's either Synthesis Blaze or it's Greatsword. Also, MELUSINE's order is not super helpful at the moment. We can still boost her, actually, if we put it in this row. So that can do something. Obviously, we have no idea what row he's going to play units in, but I think we go MELUSINE here. That will boost her up by the duration, so it'll be a 2-point boost. I was thinking we might have needed to, once again, cleanse on her to get her out of removal range, but getting her up to 5 is still a little risky. We saw, of course, the Parasite was 6 damage. Greatsword or Blaze. I mean, Blaze can set up Greatsword. Maybe we go Blaze, because if Blaze survives, that means that we can play Greatsword on our next turn, use Blaze's damage to immediately heal Greatsword, and then Greatsword is much less vulnerable. I think that makes more sense. Do we still need to boost MELUSINE? It's the safe choice. I wish I remembered what we had coming up immediately after this to know if we were potentially going to need a lot of energy immediately after, or if we're going to have maybe a place of power to restore energy, in which case we can just use the vast majority of what we have left right now. Not going to do it. Gets you up to 5. What do you have? Okay, that's fine. That's a terrible card. That's fine. They spawn in a random card. Okay, this is damaging form. Whenever you play a card, damage a random enemy unit by a random amount at the end of your turn. Mutate. So this one can deal up to 9 damage per turn. We should neutralize this. And now we do that. You go back to neutralized form, which means you're not doing anything on your next turn, with your leader ability at least. This guy is just a 4-point body, because when they spawned him in, he did not get the deploy ability. We have units that we can damage now, so that is beneficial for Synthesis Blaze. That means we can use that to set up the Greatsword more quickly and easily. But this is also another turn in which we're not expecting them to do much because we've used the neutralizing serum. Oh, so I think this is a great opportunity to get the cultist out here. Yeah, I think we have to. Earlier we get this down, the better. We really wanted that against our previous elite battle earlier, but we just couldn't find the time to make it happen. I think this is a brief, safe window, and you will boost up adjacent units, which means we'll get these guys more out of removal range. You might get destroyed from other sources, but we'll see. Okay, they're boosting themselves. We'll take it. Now it's going to spawn a random unit form. Okay, again, I think that one's not super concerning. The problem here is that they keep on getting their units in this melee row, and we want to be using Rain in the row opposite MELUSINE and opposite the cultist, because that's how we're getting the boost here. Traveling Priestess gives us a free spell. This is another potential opportunity to get a more vulnerable card down there early, but I think it would have been Greatsword that would fall into that category, but since we have a lot of damage from all this now, it's not nearly as much of a concern anymore. We actually don't have anything that's super vulnerable. Want to save you for last. Might still be Greatsword, though. If he does get hit, he can heal off those hits, so in some ways just to have a target that we're okay with receiving damage is kind of nice. Not going to put him next to the MELUSINE cultist because I don't want him to get boosts. I want him to
On plate!
purely get healed from us dealing damage. So I think what we might do here, we might deliberately set rain on this row just to get us boosted, and then use this row, or this round of rain, for damage. So we'll damage them by 2, which means you'll get boosted up to, or healed up to a 6. If we were to use the Synthesis Blaze, we could heal you up all the way more quickly, but still not seeing anything super high priority to get rid of, so I think we try to get a little greedy with the Synthesis here, and see if we can hold on to these charges until they have something that is more of a threat. That's a tiny bit of damage. Might go after you because you are the most vulnerable. But you are one of the most valuable cards we have. Okay, this one boosts. Right? Yeah, boosts a random allied unit. Okay, ooh, they do have a highly boosted card here. So Madman Lugos is not a bad target for Old Hedden, although gets all the value immediately. And I think with this form right here, they're going to boost a random unit again. So that could get to be could get an even bigger unit. So I think we stay patient with this. Oh, so they spawned in a 1-power spotter with their leader ability on that last turn. That is a great target for a Masterful Thunder, and we do have a Traveling Priestess in hand here to give us a free Masterful Thunder, because we are guaranteed to get at least 3 overkill damage, which means a lot of damage on you guys. Or we could destroy you and you technically have some long-term value because you have Thrive. Could use the Synthesis to destroy you, but I think we'd like to save this for if they spawn in a random unit that happens to be really powerful, we'd like to have this as a way to shut it down. That's what I'm trying to save these for, and you will continue to get boosted a little bit more from the cultist here, so I think we can still be a little greedy there. I think we do this.
The world is an open book.
Go Thunder, and we should get a lot of damage. That was the minimum. Darn. Okay, not as much overkill damage as we were hoping we would see, but still decent value nonetheless. Okay, that is more damage, and that will likely destroy you. Oh, no. Okay, dropping Synthesis Blaze down to a 1. Just hanging on. And there is the boost going on some Wyvern. Now it is the spawning form. Okay, so they do still have more damage from the cards in their hand, even. Oh, sorry, just slammed my cup of tea on the table. Now we'll get boosted by 1. We could cleanse you. It's not super expensive, so it's a way of getting you a little bit safer. You'll get boosted. Oh, no, you will not. Wait. You will get boosted. You will get boosted from the cultist. And want to make sure we have time for the Protoflutter to get all the bleed. We don't need quite this much time. You take a little bit of time as well. Is this the right time for the Wyvern Ulf Hedden play? We might still... I mean, I assume they'll get at least one more blue form, which is the boosting side of things, and then that can be our Ulf Hedden target. I think we still do this.
What's 3 hours in the eye? A pinprick! That's
So now the question is, do we need to boost up to Synthesis Blaze? And I think we probably should. I think it's just a little too risky when she would have been at 2 by the time you get boosted by the cultist, but just played a little bit safer here. Okay, they're gonna spawn in another copy of something. A Wyvern. Oh, and it's also 9 power. Okay, and it does deal damage, which would have been enough to destroy. Oh, and then they immediately transformed it into something that was worth less. So that is one of the reasons why the transforming side is not terrible, because sometimes they lose value out of it. So let's see. Oh no, they just spawned in a new one. Right, they aren't transforming. There's a different guy who's very similar actually, who transforms one of their cars rather than spawning in a new one. But now we should go Protoflutter to get the time for the bleed to activate here. And let's do it on you. So you're, I mean, at 9 power, it's very unlikely they'll trigger that Thrive. And you're going to take damage from this rain, so you're going to get damaged a bit already, and that leaves us potentially a bigger target for Ulfhedden here. We'd like to keep this guy relatively high up, so it's at least an option for us. And now, I still don't think we really want to neutralizing serum here. I think we're waiting once again for the red form, although at this point, Melusine is certainly well out of removal range. Synthesis Blaze remains in removal range, but, played a card from hand yet? Yeah, haven't we? Okay. Okay, that's some damage, and if they're going for Synthesis, once again, it is very, very close to killing her, but she is still holding on. Still holding on here. And I think, okay, now you're the biggest card. This is the damage form. So let's neutralize this. Let's continue to keep the rain going here. Yes, we're only getting 1 unit damage every turn, so it's not great from a damage optimization standpoint, but it means more boosts on Melusine and more boosts from the Melusine cultist as well. So that definitely adds up to, I mean, that's 1 point loss from not having a unit here, but it's worth, you know, what, 2 points of boost. 2 points of boost here as well, so 4 points to go here. That's definitely better. So we'd like to save both these guys for near the end. So this might be a Vincent turn, and it's just gonna have to be Queen of the Night, which is not great, but I mean, it's something.
Gotta go with your gut.
Technically, we could opt not to use his order ability here and just hope that he doesn't get destroyed and see if there happens to be a better option for him to use that ability on later, but that's still kind of a risk since he is just on 2 power. So I think we'll settle for that. Still haven't really seen a great target for Synthesis' damage, and to be honest, at this point, we probably do need to use it, because, yes, we'll get her boosted by 1, but they are very keen on targeting her, and they aren't going to do anything on this turn with the failed experiments. And so even if they were to spawn something big, or something important, we could still Ulfhedden to damage it, and Alistair's Thunder, Masterful Thunder, would likely be enough to destroy it. So let's just make sure that we can guarantee we get this damage. I think maybe just remove... Oh no, technically we'd like for them to keep a bunch of cards on the board. We'll spread out our damage because we want to have as much damage on Okfist as possible. Except we don't really want to lower their Thrive card because that makes it easier for them to trigger that Thrive. Okay, so we've gotten the damage now. So now it's not a huge deal if we lose to Synthesis. More Bear Abominations. Okay, this is the spawn form. Okay. So do we go Ulfhedden here on an 11 points Bear Abomination, or do we go Okfist and hit everyone? We know Okfist will be worth at least 1 more point on their next turn, possibly more than that, whereas Ulfhedden may not gain value. So I think we might be looking at Ulfhedden here. On you. And that's solid value. Okay, do we need a spell on this turn? We may not. Would be a decent target for Masterful Thunder. Even better still if we wait and use Okfist on our next turn. But I think we can keep it as is for now. Royal Decree, I mean, what is it going to be from their deck? Some damage from Pyrotechnician on a random one of our cards. They spawn in a Warcrier, which will get boosted by 1 every turn as long as we have a damage card, and we have a damage card right now, who's actually... Are you 5 base power? Yeah, you're going to remain damaged unless we were to use Cleanse here. But, so now, obviously, it's Okfist. He is worth a decent amount. We can do this, which, again, is actually worth more in this row because of the synergies we have here, despite them only having 1 unit there. And we will get more boosts. I think we might be fine without using any energy here. I vaguely remember that his finisher is usually not that strong. This will be worth... I mean, they'll damage themselves a little bit. Damage themselves by functionally 3, because they still have 1 armor, and they'll deal 4 damage to us, so it's on net. Really just 1 point of value, and then whatever they're getting from this, I think we'll be fine, and they're spawning as well, or they're boosting as well. That is damage, but we don't care too much. It's a 4-point boost. We'll hold on for, well, what could have been a very difficult encounter, but we found a way to make it work. So field experiments taken care of. It was the very opponent that ended our previous run that ended. So we can either upgrade MELUSINE further or take Horn of Plenty, which means whenever we get an allied unit boosted, it also gets Vitality, functionally doubling down on the boost. On Bulwark, this feels like this is just absolutely just amazing. Amazing. For us, I mean, we have some boosts on MELUSINE. We have some boosts from the MELUSINE Cultist, but if we don't get those guys, I guess there's Proto Flutter, but just not a lot of boosts in our deck. We're, of course, primarily a damaging deck, so I think upgrading MELUSINE is definitely what we'd like to do here, especially because this one's pretty big. Instead of getting Rain, it's Storm, so that means instead of damaging up to 2 cards in a row, we're damaging every single card in a row by 1. So let's go for it. Okay, and oh right, we have a treasure immediately after that, so that's awesome. Then we'll have a normal battle, and then we can potentially pick up this Place of Power. However, that would mean we are... I suppose we could still go down this way and dodge that elite battle if we wanted to. Then we just have a bunch of events. Or we go the southern route and get Place of Power there and there. That is 1 more total Place of Power, for whatever that's worth. Well, let's see what this treasure chest gives us. It is either that Raven's Armor that we saw previously, which helps us when it comes to taking damage, or it's the Magnifying Spyglass, which we've seen on many prior occasions, and I'm a big fan of it. It gives you the consistency of knowing what cards you're going to draw into, so this is really good for if you have 1 or 2 really powerful cards, like, say, a highly upgraded key card. You can make sure that you get it. So, for that reason, now that we have upgraded MELUSINE a fair bit, that is pretty tempting to go that route. I think we've got to go with this. Alright. So, either way, the next encounter is this battle. But then we're going to have to make up our minds in terms of which direction we think we want to go. So let's see what we end up with here. We are still fairly low on energy. Bounty Hunter does damage, and that damage scales over time. This guy does have a hard version, but we did not get him this time, fortunately. So he requires that he deals statuses to us. And notably, our keycard, MELUSINE, has Veil. And Veil means that he can't apply additional statuses to us. So if we can get MELUSINE on the board early, we can almost completely shut him down. So MELUSINE is basically a hard counter for him. So let's see if we... I mean, other than that, I mean, our cards here are pretty darn good. I like the Greatsword a lot, especially in this encounter, because he deals a lot of damage, but if we can heal off that damage repeatedly with the Greatsword, then that doesn't become a big deal. Maybe we dump Proto Flutter. And there's MELUSINE. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Let's leave it at this. Alright, so we can use the Magnifying Spyglass to control what cards we draw into here. And we probably, why not, make sure we get Cultist or Ockfist. Would likely be our preference. Might be kind of hard to keep the Cultist alive. Because as I said, he does have damage, and they do not have the same status immunity that MELUSINE has, unfortunately. So it's a little bit riskier there, but he has cooldown 2. I think we still do it. At least for the first turn. At least for the first turn, we do this. And is it double Ockfist, or is it MELUSINE Cultist again, then Ockfist? Or is it an Ulfhedden as well? forget how many units this guy tends to have. I think he has some non-units. So Ockfist might not be quite as effective as it might be in other encounters. Thrown Berserker actually also is useful, because when he transforms after taking damage, he, I believe, loses statuses. So that is also a bit of a counter. We will still draw into 1 or 2 additional cards, even after we get past the ones that we are guaranteeing here with our artifact, or with our treasure. Let's do that. Okay, so it's MELUSINE first, and what that means is that they will try to mark a random unmarked enemy unit, but they won't be able to, because MELUSINE has failed. They can still damage her by 1, so I think to play it safe here, we'll at least give her 1 cleanse initially, so they don't do anything clever on their first turn to shut her down. But once we can start using her order ability, she will start to get boosted. Yeah, because that's damage as well, of course.
Kiss me.
They try to mark her, but it doesn't work. So then, I think, again, we find ourselves in this. It feels like that, for whatever reason, our opponent tends to play units in the melee row way more than the range row. Not sure if that's actually a thing, or that's just because I happen to have kept on playing units in the range row, and they've gone melee row, and it's noticeable for that reason. But maybe we should make more of a point of going MELUSINE melee row and seeing if that does, in fact, happen to be the case, because we saw this happen last time where, I mean, I'd like to do this.
We dare not set sail without her blessing.
Put the cultist next to MELUSINE, and we're gonna put Rain in this row just because it means we're getting boosts on both MELUSINE and from the cultist as well. So, not so great from a damage standpoint, but it does work from a boosting standpoint. Okay, that's gonna be damage. Again, melee row. They're going after MELUSINE. That's going to be hard for them to catch her. And they're still trying to give her the veil. Or they're still trying to give her the mark. So it's going to randomly swap between cards that have and cards that do not have a mark. So there's a 50-50 chance that it was going to either try to put that mark on MELUSINE Cultist or MELUSINE herself. Doesn't work on MELUSINE, so this just totally bricks them. But, of course, we're going to continue to add more cards that are not named MELUSINE. So, ooh, also, right, this is Storm, not Rain. So, now what we can do
Hear my prayer.
is we'll use the Storm to just boost up these guys, at least for now. Then we'll put the Rain here and start dealing some damage. We perhaps would actually like to reverse that. Storm is worth more damage than Rain is, so if we're just using the range row effect to get the boost, then we might as well make that Rain, and we might as well make this the Storm. So, you know, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Not a factor here technically just yet, but now they're playing in the range row. Okay. They're still trying to put the mark on MELUSINE, and it's not working, and I love it. Okay. So, let's see. You are an engine that can deal damage. So, technically, getting rid of you relatively early is nice. You are going to be on cooldown, so maybe this is a time in which we can play Synthesis Blaze relatively safely. And let's actually go, as we were saying, we'll put the Rain here, and then we'll replace this Rain with Storm, just because the Storm is better for dealing damage, and there are more units here. Okay, now you're going to mark and give an enemy unit bleeding. This time you were smart and actually gave it to a card that could receive the marks in both cases. So we drawn to Ulfhead, and this was a random one. That was not a card that we controlled with our artifacts. That worked pretty well, because that is one of the cards we were considering getting. So we could use the Dobleton Archer. In fact, if we were to go melee row, that would guarantee that we have enough damage to destroy this Hunter, because it will take 1 damage from Rain at the end of this turn, or start of their turn. So that works. Getting Greatsword out here to get healed up would be nice, but we have a lot of damage set and ready to go from the Storms and Rains that, well, it'll be Storm from here on out. So not too worried about that, technically. Might want to use the Synthesis Blaze as damage soon, though, because this is... Oh, they're going to be off cooldown? Yeah. Yeah. Tell you what. Let's go, Greatsword.
off 3 heads with 1 blow.
And let's deal 2 damage here. Again, the rain is going to finish you off, so don't need to worry about that. And then you're going to take 3 points of damage here from all the storm, because it hits everyone. So that means across that damage, you're going to get healed all the way up to 10, so see if we can save these charges. Or at least guarantee we get some of the damage from Synthesis there. Okay, more marks and bleeds. That's going to be on you, but I kind of want you to be the recipient of some damage, because you can heal it off, but that is a lot of damage. Okay, so now we might just go Priestess, Thunder to hit you guys, and that'll give us more healing on you. Along with, that's going to hit everyone for a bunch of damage, so that time, yeah, there are enough units in this row. We'll opt for the damage, although, then again, we have enough damage that we might have been able to remove them anyway, so I suppose maybe we might as well put Storm here and then just use things like Traveling Priestess and Synthesis to finish these guys off. Either way, then we could use this to heal or use Portal if we really wanted to. That is technically an option.
The world is an open book.
Because you're getting destroyed. You're dropping to 1. You're dropping to 2. You're dropping to 3. Can deal more damage with you. You're getting healed by 4. Taking 1 more point of damage, though. So you're going to be up to 5. You'll be up to an 8 if we use all these charges. We'll do it. Yeah, so, everything is dead. Didn't need to use that charge because the storm was going to destroy you. Technically, they can destroy you. Which does stink because we were obviously getting some good value out of that, but now your only unmarked enemy is Melusine, so obviously they're going to try to hit her, but can't do the mark. Okay, so that's a 7-point Falibor. There's something to be said for dropping him down to a 1 and then finishing him off with Synthesis Blaze. Maybe we go that route. I don't think that Ocvis is going to be worth all that much in this instance, because, well,
Nasty business, that.
I think we are going to be destroying most of their units. Okay, who do they try to give Rupture to? You. Okay, you are destroyed. Between Rupture, which would have dealt damage at the end of our turn, and the damage from their leader ability with the mark, that was really what finished it off. But we have dealt enough damage that even after losing what was a really nice synergizing card, I think we should still be fine here. We do this. Now it makes all the sense to go in the range row. And I mean, I guess it's Archer, melee, plus damage for Synthesis, and then the Storm will finish you off.
They can hide, but there is no escape.
Maybe it's overkill. A trap. I'm trying to remember what trap he has, because I don't recall. I think it's the one that... Is it the one that boosts adjacent units? It might be. I mean, we've nothing for Ulfheden to hit at all. And then Ocfist, usually we're using this order as soon as we play it, but technically, we don't have to. It is an order ability, just an order ability that has Zeal, so I think we'll play you, and we will deliberately not use that order until you actually get some units down here. Or not. Okay, no, it deals damage to everyone in a row. That's unfortunate because we did have a lot in that row, that's why I played you in this other row. But, well, so the thing is now there's not a lot for us to do here, because you still don't have a single unit. So... Huzzah? Won't even let us use Ocfist? Okay, I mean, we can still get some boosts out of doing that. And that boosts adjacent units. You didn't have any adjacent units. You have 0 points. Oh, well, you had 5. You have 5 because with the extra difficulty modifier, you automatically start with 5, but functionally, you had 0. You didn't have a single unit on the board. You're not fooling me. All right, let's see. We can add Philippa, who gives a big burst of damage. The first round is 4 damage, and that is specifically on a targeted unit. Then it randomly splits the damage, 3, then 2, then 1 across other units. You don't know where that's going to end up. That is a nice burst. Remove... I mean, the Berserkers are probably among the weaker cards in our deck. There have been some times where they've been kind of helpful, but let's just see. So, the most cards we can play in a single match is 10. So that means, theoretically, we want to have the best 10 cards we can have in a match, and anything beyond that, card 11, 12, 13, 14, we don't really care. Ideally, we're just not playing it, especially since we have Magnifying Spyglass, so we have pretty good reliability and consistency with just playing the cards we want, and we can almost completely ignore the bad ones. So, I mean, this is probably the worst. But then after that it's probably the Berserkers, yeah. So it's so the cards we want to play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, really, 11, yeah, so we have more than 10 cards that we're willing to play here at the moment, which means adding additional cards means that we are just making it harder to get the ones that we already like, unless Philippa, the card that we could potentially add, is just better than some of the alternatives, and she is probably just a better version of Sheila. So there is that. You could look at her as an upgraded version of Sheila, lower base power but higher damage, and all happens immediately. Don't need to worry about Sheila potentially getting destroyed before she can use her order ability. So you play for 11, where Sheila is playing for 9, and Sheila is slower. This is definitely not going to be what we do. You know, with the Spyglass, I'm not sure removing makes that much of a difference. Let's go with Philippa. So we can control almost every card that we get. Alright, but now we need to make up our mind. Because at this point, we can either restore a little bit of energy, go into a battle, and then do another elite battle, and then be forced to go into 2 more events and another elite battle right before our boss battle, which is a little scary. But on the other hand, we have already taken out what was, by some accounts, the most difficult elite enemy, Failed Experiment, and we now have upgraded MELUSINE further, so we are stronger than we were before, and we can guarantee that we get MELUSINE with Magnifying Spyglass as well, so there's no risk of us missing out on MELUSINE. So is that reason enough that we actually still feel confident going this route? It means we're not going to have much energy for the boss battle, for what it's worth. And at this point, we should probably be starting to think specifically about preparation for this battle in particular. Yeah, I wish we could go to this elite battle and then change course, so we don't have to go to this elite battle right before. So that is very, very risky. I mean, what elites are we still going to encounter? I mean, usually it's such that there are ones that you see at the front half of a run, and ones you see in the latter half of the run, and might be a separate group for ones you see in the middle, and Failed Experiment is middle. Latter half, there's the Inquisitor dude, who's not that bad most of the time. What else? I don't remember what the other late run elites are, because probably for the most part, we've tried to avoid the late run elites because we've been concerned about blowing through all of our energy before going to the boss battle. So it's probably not a coincidence. But then we get energy here, 2 battles, another place of power there for energy or maybe other stuff. Wait, let's see. What happens if we upgrade MELUSINE further? Have we checked at this point? Deploy Spawn a MELUSINE Cultist to the left of this unit. So we get a Cultist, which is the card that synergizes really well with her. I mean, that is pretty incredible. Still Storm. I mean, part of me is tempted to see how much we can upgrade one key card and see how much of a difference that can make. But it is obviously a pretty big risk. This would be our last source of energy restoration on the entire run unless we happen to get some from an event. We could technically bail out and go this way before that elite battle, and then we could go into this elite battle. That way we're getting one elite battle before the boss rather than two. Maybe we do that. Although if we're talking an elite that I've never seen before, potentially, then that is a little daunting, but let's try it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We can remove a card or we can gain energy. We're definitely gaining energy here. All right, so I'm gonna skip this one, but I'm gonna do this one, I think, depending on what happens at these events. We have to do this battle first anyway. There are some difficult hard enemies. I haven't seen this guy in a long time. I don't really remember him. Play the bottom card from opponent's deck. Cooldown 3. So is he basically in a simulate deck? I mean, we can, of course, guarantee that we draw into some things with Magnifying Spyglass, but he might beat us to the punch, which is a little bit scary. We would like to believe that we can get Melusine here. Let's put back Ulf Hedin. And this is not bad. Then we just guarantee we draw into Melusine with this. But it does mean there's going to be a brief delay. And technically, if Melusine is at the bottom of our deck, I don't believe this is the order of our deck. I think this is just random. Although Melusine, if this is true, is at the second to last spot. Should be able to draw into her before then, but we do run that risk. I think we try this, though. Oh, well, there is Melusine. Perfect. Okay. So now, let's try to draw into good stuff and prevent them from stealing those things. And also, we have to consider what is most threatening for them to use. So I think Ulf Hedin might be the most threatening, because now with Melusine plus all these Melusine cultists that we have in hand, we can actually do a whole bunch of boosting. So Ulf Hedin on our Melusine would be worth a ton of value. So I don't think we want them to steal that. So that might need to be the first thing that we get, just to deny them. Then, if those cards are boosted, Vincent should not be able to reset them, so I don't think that's a huge problem. Philippa does have a lot of damage and could just generally be disruptive, so might want to deny them her. So Synthesis we can probably destroy before they get the chance to use her with Traveling Priestess and Grow Effects. Combination of those things should give us enough. So that's not a big concern. I think we do maybe this and this. Maybe even Vincent. Okay, let's do that. And I think... we have, what, like, I think this battle and one more after it, and then it's outside of that, all events before the boss fight. So we may not need to spend much more energy in between this and the boss fight, but again, those events, who knows what's going to happen, right? So, I'd like to play Melusine early. Are we willing to throw a cleanse on her just to keep her a little bit safer? I think so. I think so. Would like to be a little bit stingy with our energy consumption at this point, though, as we are getting very close to the end of the run. I don't like that. Seal the Berserker, that's fine. You got rid of our Veil, which means you can now give statuses to Melusine. But now we will go and go with the Cultist next to Melusine to get her more highly boosted.
Is her hunger, and great is her power.
And I know I said I was going to play Melusine in the melee row, because it seemed like they were always playing their cards in the melee row, but alas, I had forgotten, once again. They also always have their leader in the range row, which takes up a little bit of space. Okay, Cynthia will spawn a Guardian in our deck. Oh, which is actually gonna... I mean, we're gonna brick this. But, fortunately, we already have some pretty good stuff here. So we can either boost the other cultist or we can double boost Melusine. I think Melusine is out of removal range already in all likelihood.
This offering that we might make the coast safely.
Oh, yeah, they have a bunch of statuses. That was a big factor that they purified Melusine, because now they can apply those. I hate that. We have no purification, so there's no way of stopping them from removing Melusine with poison. Okay, well, fortunately, we can still get a little more in the way of value from the Storm, at the very least, which will give damage and give more boost from the cultists. So we can do that. Gonna be off cooldown on their next turn, which means this assimilate will proc. So destroying you is potentially worth doing. We'll wait on this, because both rows have row effects at the moment. So let's do... this. Okay, that is actually way stronger with Assimilate. They do get Vincent, but he can't do anything because everything is boosted. We want to get rid of you. And Melusine is still on cooldown. We can get damage. We can potentially get a little bit of damage there. And I do like how you are guaranteed to take out Vincent if we were to go with the Thunder on you, but then Glynis remains on the board for longer than I would like her to be there. But we can put the Rain. They'll be on cooldown for a little while, so they won't be able to trigger Assimilate from our deck, at least not for a while. So maybe we're still kind of okay about that. Maybe we're kind of okay about that.
It's the journey that makes us life.
Okay, was minimum damage, right? Because Glynis had, I think, just 2 armor and didn't deal any damage beyond that armor. So, yeah, we'll still put the Rain there to get her down to 5. She could have been an Ulfhedden target, yes, but I'd like to find a way to remove her outside of that if possible. And again, she's going to continue to get boosted, so it's going to be hard to make that happen. More Assimilate. And fortunately for us, yes, Melusine will continue to get boosted, which means if they can eventually get rid of her, then that would be more valuable. But longer she lasts, the more she sets up these guys and the more damage we're dealing, so still okay. Still okay. Still on cooldown. Ulfhedden may be able to drop you into removal range on our next turn. And we're going to put him here. Because rather than boosting Melusine, who is potentially going to get destroyed, we might as well boost something else from these cultists. There's the poison. And they'll get a Melusine as well. It's a 20 power Melusine, no less. Okay. Once again, that is one of the differences between multiplayer Gwents and Rogue Mage. What's up, Force Law? How are you? How are you doing? We are doing some Rogue Mage. And, well, they just stole a humongous Melusine. Not only did they destroy her, they stole her. And that's not good. That is very not good. So, we can destroy Glynis. I was thinking we might Ockfist here to make that happen. But we may have bigger concerns at this point. I mean, they can't benefit as much. Oh, we stacked this row as well. Oh, man. Oh, man. I am wondering if we portal and hope and pray for a Morkvarg Heart of Terror to significantly damage this, because this is not good. This is very, very not good. So that is very good value, and they have more poison as well.
He who knows too much dies too soon.
I never miss.
Okay, so the poison here will destroy Philippa on our next turn if we don't get rid of Moral. So we kind of need to do that. So let's go and take... Technically, let's Thunder first. See if it's enough damage. It is. Overkill as well. If it wasn't enough damage, we might have had to have played Ockfist. But now we can go Greatsword.
I once lopped off 3 heads with one blow.
Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to heal this guy up, but Ockfist as a finisher will do some of that. But this guy is... Oh, more poison. My goodness. Guy's putting up much more of a fight than I remembered him doing in the past. Wow. We are in serious trouble. Oh. Well, that helps. Yeah. Let's do that. I technically should have done this first. I forgot about you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can we afford to wait a turn? Let's try to wait a turn before doing this. So this is going to destroy Melusine. Boost Melusine. I dare you. Darn. So now, I mean, granted, you didn't make this any more effective, but we do that. That heals the Greatsword. Villain Treadmirth is going to destroy Melusine, which is a 22-point play. Then that drops them down to what? And we're not going to take any more damage here. Not going to get healed anymore. They will have their leader ability. If it's Berserker, that's not worth that much. So Synthesis, they won't have time to use her order, so that's not worth much. Proto-Flutter is a solid point slam, and Sheila is okay. So, I mean, they would drop down to 18. Which means we have a, what? A 19-point lead? Which is going to get boosted by 1. That's 18 points. This is going to trigger 2 assimilates. That's 16 points plus whatever they get out of here, which is playing for around maybe as much as 7. So that's 11-point lead. Is their last card an 11? Is basically the question. Is there anything that plays for more than this? No. Their last card needs to be an 11. Or better for them to win, if we were to pass now. Is that enough? I mean, it's possible they could make that happen. Don't have any poison units, so it's not like they're about to remove something else. It's close. We're at 30 energy. It's so close. But I'm gonna try it. This might come back to bite us. There's Melusine going away. Leader ability, Cantarell, they'll play another card from our deck.
No one can hide from
It is Proto-Flutter, that was the worst case scenario. That was the best card they could have gotten. But I still, well, but they're gonna proc assimilate as well. It's gonna be so close. It's gonna be so close. Whew, okay, we're fine. We're fine, lots of close calls. Lots of close calls, but we're fine. I did not remember that guy being that difficult. That's not even supposed to be the hard version. Okay. Damage with Donar. Be 2 or 4 if there are 2 damage units. It's still not great. Gregoire, I mean, if we can get the death blow, it's humongous. And I think that's actually not that difficult to reach that death blow because we have so many ways to just slightly weaken our enemy's units down to 1 point with weather in particular. So I do like that. Yeah, and I don't think we want to get rid of any of you guys. So let's add Gregoire. Okay, so now the question is, oh, we were gonna go another battle for it? Oh man. Yes, this would be our, if we go this route, we can potentially make that be our last battle. Or if we're feeling good, we could potentially go to this elite battle. I'm feeling like, not as confident in that right now. Well, let's see what we run into here. Succubus, she what, steals weak units? And she has a hard version and a normal version. This is the normal version, thankfully. Yeah, at the end of your turn, move a random enemy unit with 2 power or less to the opposite row and boost it by 2. So we want to play high power cards. Or if they do steal units, they need to be not very powerful ones, so it's not a huge deal. So I think she has a lot of damage to try to get us down to that number. So something like Berserker that can transform when it takes damage is maybe not a terrible idea. If we go Traveling Priestess, this will very likely get stolen. Protoflutter might have enough boosts to, at least for a while, avoid getting stolen, but eventually might end up having that happen. Sheila, I think, is a bad idea. Greatsword should be able to heal off much of that damage. Vincent, of course, we can get the value from the order ability immediately, which is nice. So maybe that's not a terrible thing if they steal it. 2 power Vincent, turn into a 4 power Vincent, who doesn't have an order ability anymore. I mean, obviously, I'd like to have Melusine. So you shall receive Melusine, and get the other card anyway. Okay, let's see. With Magnifying Spyglass. So we have some low power cards, but those low power cards, for the most part, are deployability centric. So like Philippa, we play her, we get all the values coming from the deploy, right? They steal her at 1 power, and she becomes a 3. And is that a huge deal? Maybe not. So we might be okay with taking her. I think they will get a lot of units, though, so Okvis is not a bad idea. Again, assuming we use this order ability pretty much immediately. So these could work Gregoire. I kind of like the idea of Gregoire, because if we can get that Deathblow lined up, then he should be much too big for them to steal him. That'll be a late round play, I would think. We don't have any cultists in hand, which is unfortunate. So I'm kind of tempted to get them. On the other hand, they are very sealable. And the value is not instantaneous. We want them to stay on our board for a long period of time, so if they get stolen early, they're much weaker. So I think we probably pass on them for now. So we go... I think 1, 2, 3. That's probably what it's going to be. If we get Philippa as well, that'd be nice, but let us probably still begin with Melusine. I'm going to remember to play her in the melee row. Obviously, if they steal Melusine, that would be pretty catastrophic. So I still think we want to cleanse her. Just to play it safe. Because that will deal damage. But it also means we can destroy you between Vincent lowering you to 1 and then Storm taking you out, or Traveling Priestess, but I think we wait for that. Because I know it's not the biggest amount of damage or weakening that we're dealing from Vincent, but this is a pretty powerful engine, so shutting it down immediately is definitely a nice thing to do. It does mean Vincent is going to get stolen, but I think we're okay with that. Does it go to the opposite row? Yeah, so also means Vincent's going to end up in this row where there's the storm, so we can deliberately try to feed them. If we are feeding them cards, make sure they go into rows that have weather effects on them. So away goes that boar. Ifrit, okay, we need to be careful about getting a bunch of stuff on one row. That was funny, though. They played it there because they didn't want to put it in the row that had the storm, but it meant they couldn't use the order ability at all. So this is another card that is worth potentially getting rid of early. On one hand, I want to get the greatsword down here quickly. On the other hand, it is susceptible to getting stolen if we don't have more damage proactively set up. So what I'm wondering is if maybe, I mean, we could go Traveling Priestess and get rid of you two. But I think for the most part, we're going to be playing in the melee row anyway. So I don't think this is really that much of a concern. I'm questioning Berserker, because if it gets hit by damage, it'll transform, and then it's hard for them to do anything about that. And it does
If I go down, I'm taking you with me.
give us one more damage set and ready to go for the Greatsword if we play that on our next turn. Ooh, that means Greatsword is just dead on deploy. And this can happen in Gwent multiplayer as well. I've seen this happen before. It's kind of hilarious. Obviously, it stinks because he's still gonna deal 6 damage to himself when we play him, and it means he's just dead. But okay. Now, however, why don't we? Although I'm tempted to go with Traveling Priestess and try to get overkill damage here. This is also potentially going to be a target for Gregoire. So I do kind of like that. If we go here, obviously that powers up Melusine. It will deal damage, drop you down to a 1, which means next turn we could do that. And maybe we do a relatively early Proto-Flitter. Or we just sacrifice you now. Might just sacrifice you now. Because none of these are particularly time sensitive. In fact, many of them are cards we'd like to wait to play until later on. Need some time for the bleed to take effect for Proto-Flitter, but it's not a huge factor.
I once lopped off 3
So there's
heads with one blow.
what I was talking about. Immediately gets killed. Oh, but yeah, unfortunately the damage there happened to hit you. Okay, so that's a clever way of dealing damage and almost getting the Abomination into stealing range. But now they have an Infiltrator there that will get damage. We draw into a Cultist. Okay, I mean, we'll take it. We'll take it. That is the card we want to maximize the time it is on the board. As I was saying, it is definitely very susceptible to getting stolen, because it is at only 3 power. It does have 1 armor. Is it worth cleansing it? I mean, if we wanted to play totally optimally for this match, yes. On the other hand, we're getting close to the end of the run, and we don't have that much energy left, and we don't have very many ways to get energy back. So, for those reasons, we're gonna try to go without. At least for a turn. Okay, that's slow, that damage from Nithral. And, technically, could go in either way. Play you in this row, you in this row. We'd like to get rid of Nithral. He is the most threatening card that they have right now, so this might be time for the Traveling Priestess. I think it is. I think it probably is.
The world is in unpeople.
So we go Thunder, and even if this doesn't kill, it does. We could have still gotten the kill from the Storm or the Rain. So we still have a 1 power target. Yeah, that is going to get stolen.
A secret compartment.
Or something here is going to get stolen. So we can still use Gregoire, and this might not be a bad time to... I mean, technically, you're going to get destroyed. You're going to drop down 1. You're going to get dropped down to 2. So there's still time to do Gregoire later, and we actually would like to have time for the Proto-Flitter to gain the... or deal damage with the bleed. So let's do that. We'll try to keep the cards that need the boost from the Melusine Cultist to avoid getting stolen next to the Melusine Cultist. Actually means we probably should have played the Priestess on this side, because Melusine herself is fairly safe right now. Unless that complicates things, which it does. So yeah, we expected them to steal this at some point. Of course, the longer it stayed on our side, the better, but we accepted the fact that that was likely to happen. So now it's Auk Fists and Gregoire. So we could do Gregoire on this turn. Could do him on the next turn and target you after we put the storm there. We could do on the last turn and target you. So it's basically just a matter of what do we want to do in what order. Let's do this. I think we may still go for Gregoire now. I'm deliberately not playing anything in the range row because this Ifrit will damage anything we play there. It is going to just get destroyed on their next turn, but there's the big boost and shield, which means it should be pretty darn difficult for them to do anything to Gregoire. Fortunately, it's boosted because they had a Vincent as well. Okay, and now we can play things in the range row. And let's Hawk Fist here. And that's why we're, when we can, trying to avoid row stacking. But we can do that, largely just for the boost, because we are going to destroy every card that they have. Once again here. Technically means they still have 5 points. Do they have a unit here? They don't. They might be able to steal something, but no. Once again, we've functionally shut out our opponent. So, I mean, it certainly shows that when we have time to set up properly, this deck is very good at what it does. But it does, we have been making a point of using some energy to do that more safely. Okay, we definitely don't want to remove either of you guys. The Bloody Baron is kind of interesting. Resetting the power of a unit if our opponent happens to have something that is really highly boosted, like that previous encounter where they stole our highly boosted Melusine. Bloody Baron could have bailed us out on an occasion like that. So,
Most intriguing creature. When I'm done with my opus magnum, I might obtain one of these to study its unique skills.
yeah, I don't even remember what... Oh, it was the succubus. I was gonna say, like, creature? I didn't even remember that it was not a human. But, okay. So what we could do is, if we're feeling bold, we go event, event, elite battle, and then boss. If we are not feeling bold, we go event, 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 boss. And that means that was our last battle. I think at the very least what we'll do is we'll go to this event, we'll see what happens, and if we can get energy back, then that is probably the primary way in which we would be willing to at least consider this. If it costs us energy, we are definitely not doing this. So let's see. It's a stone altar. We've seen this before. Oh, well. Well, well, well. You discover an altar with mysterious runes etched into its moss-covered rock. Offerings of fruit and flora adorn the shrine, presumably deposited by the locals to gain favor with the gods. These are hallowed grounds, it seems. We can... don't know what we get from... I think we, like, upgrade a card or something, or gain a new card. But, no, not spending energy here. We can get a simple, straightforward 20 energy, which puts us in a decent place. I mean, this is probably lower than I'd like to have for the boss fight. This, getting another 20 energy, that'd put us in a much better place. Still not amazing. But we could gain 50 energy and gain a curse. Which, of course, is not a card that we like. On the other hand, our deck at this point is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 cards. That would be the 19th. If it starts in our hand, we can mulligan out of it. And we can control 3 cards that we draw into with the Magnifying Spyglass. There's still 1 card we draw into on the very first turn that we can't control. So it could be that card. But with the Spyglass in particular, and a relatively large deck, not a huge deck, but a relatively large deck to bury this one really bad card in, we could potentially justify this. And it would cap out our energy, which, I mean, that would potentially be the best possible way to take on that elite battle. So I am kind of intrigued. I think we do it. You inspect the offerings at the base of the altar. Most are still edible. Such a shame. Not wanting to see the food go to waste. You collect the freshest of the fruits on display and stuff them into a sack. You'll put them to better use than any god, that's for sure. Oh man. Curse is perhaps understandable then. So now the question is, we have great energy, suddenly, which was our biggest concern going into this boss battle. Do we just go event, and keep it simple, keep it safe? Or do we say, well, we're feeling a little bit bold here. Might as well go for one more elite battle, and, you know, it's theoretically an option. It is theoretically an option. Let's do it. Let's do it! I feel like we're gonna get an elite that we've not seen before, but... Okay, we can help this merchant in need, and in doing so, lose 10 energy, but I believe we've seen this before. We get a chance to choose a pretty powerful card, or usually, between a set of 3 cards, something of our choosing, and it's pretty likely we'll get something good there. Then again, this late on in a run when we already have a lot of good cards in our deck, I mean, we can further bury that curse is possibly the biggest benefit to it, to be honest. Make it less likely for us to get it. But other than that, you know, if it's really good, it could potentially be so good that it's something that we use the magnifying spyglass to get instead of one of our other cards. But for the most part, obviously, we're making sure we get Melusine. We'd like to have Melusine Cultists. And then we have some other stuff. I mean, I guess we have still some bronzes that we're trying to use. And there's a chance we can find something better than that. So we are at max energy here, but, well, I really think we want to be in max energy going into the elite battle, because that way we can spend energy aggressively in both the elite battle and hopefully still the boss battle as well, because I feel like that elite battle is going to be one that we've never seen before, because we usually avoid the last minute elite battles. So I think we still pass on this. I think the marginal benefit from adding one more card is quite small. So no chance, you think to yourself. Not today, chum. Ignoring the bawling merchant, you move on through the forest toward your destination. Alright, because basically, we're prioritizing this. What is it? It's the Mountain King! Okay, he's usually someone we see at the very beginning of a run, so to see him at the end, not too worried about him. He does have some very highly boosted cards, so that he'll play near the end. So having Bloody Baron is an amazing way to finish things off. And I think the Archer is probably the worst card we have in our deck that is not named Curse. So we have Melusine, we have a Cultist. Sheila, Ulfhedden is also a great finisher for some of their really highly boosted cards. Not sure Sheila's going to be that great for us. Okay, drawn to Philippa. So now that means we can guarantee the next 3 cards we draw into. And there's, I think, maybe only just 1 card at the very, or maybe 2 cards at the very end of the match that we'll draw into, and there's a chance we get Cursed then, but it's fairly unlikely. So, what do we want? So they're going to have a lot of boosts, so I don't think Vincent's going to be that useful for us. They have a lot of Thrive, and they have hand boosting. Their last card is always Torque. I think might even want another Cultist. Maybe a Great Sword. Maybe Ogfist. They have some damage. Some big bursts of damage. But, I think we go a little bit greedy. The Cultist first. Maybe the Priestess to give us some flexibility, but that could probably be our third option. Not sure if we're going to be able to get them low enough to trigger a death blow with Gregoire. It might be a little bit tough given all the boosting that they have, so I think we might pass on that. And it'd be nice to have an Ogfist, right? We go double Ogfist rather than a Priestess? I think they have some armor as well, which would make Ogfist weaker. So maybe it's 1 Ogfist and 1 Priestess. Let's start with Melusine. And let's boost her, because we have full energy. So we should be able to be pretty aggressive with the energy usage here in this elite battle, and still in the boss encounter immediately after this as well. That's the idea. Okay, so that Hawker Smuggler is going to increase the power of all the cards in their hand. So we would kind of like to get rid of that. And we should be able to start to whittle away at it
without her blessing.
with MELUSINE's damage. And is it a big enough deal that we're gonna thunder this thing? Kind of feels like overkill. It's almost guaranteed to kill you once you factor in the storm as well. Let's do it. Because their cards start weak, but gain. Ooh. We're gonna drop down to 1. Their cards start weak, but gain value, gain power while they're in their hand. What is your order ability? Boost all units in your hand. Yeah. Okay, this is a card we really want to destroy, though. Right? I thought I remembered here. Being a threat. At the end of your turn, boost self by 1 if you control another. Copy this unit. Also damage. Yeah, so we want to get rid of this as quickly as possible, pretty much. So... well... Philippa is a total of 10 damage. And they have... between armor and power, they have 9 on the board right now. And we can deal even more with rain and with next turn, more storm. So it is technically overkill, yes. But I think we might still take that up. Well, but then earlier MELUSINE Cultists would be really nice too. I think we can wait. I think next turn will be Philippa. Especially if we go with a Thunder on our next turn as well to further weaken some of their cards. Then Philippa should still be able to destroy everything, I think. Okay, well, Nekker is a card we're fine with destroying as well. So that does have value too. And, well... Priestess for Thunder here. It's not bad. It's not bad. Now you're what? 6, 13, 15 total. You get 2 damage from this. 1 damage from this. So 10 plus... we have 13, and what we just said, they have 15 or something like that. So some stuff will survive by a tiny bit. By a tiny bit if we were to Philippa and use all these things on this turn. Whereas... maybe it's... we delay the Philippa and use that to, again, try to target you. But focus on the Nekkers for the time being with the Priestess.
The world is in people.
Because the overkill damage is likely to either destroy you or drop you down to a 1, where you are going to get destroyed by something on the next turn. Whether that be I will go Storm this row. Rain this row, assuming that, again, they will probably focus more on the melee row because reasons. Okay, it's another Hawker Smuggler, and it looks like it's going melee row.
Special prize, just for you, love.
Alright, so now I think it does make sense for us to see. Philippa, they have 17 right now. 17 points, or plus armor. So it's not going to destroy, or won't destroy both of them. But it will certainly still weaken stuff. Which is nice. Is there anything else that's high priority that we want to make sure stays alive? We want to put in between these two? I mean, Philippa is at risk of getting destroyed if we put her there, but... yeah, I mean, it's not really any other engines, so... yeah, it's not a big deal. Well, actually, we'd like for you guys to stay alive, so let's have them continue to boost each other. And maybe do this. Okay, down goes that guy. And that was the one that we were more concerned about, I think. So, that's fine. So I imagine they might be about to play another one. They are. So, great timing in that case. And now we will MELUSINE here. And... maybe Berserker? Like to wait to play you until fairly late on. Like to wait until we have a 1 power card to target with you. Definitely waiting to play you toward the end and use what... yeah, so you're basically just, by process of elimination, the card we're going to play on this turn. could technically have played him next to one of the cultists and kept him getting boosted so that he would continue to deal damage every turn. That might have been worth doing. You deal some damage, and if you trigger that Thrive, you do a bunch of bad stuff, right? Whenever this unit's Thrive is triggered, damage random enemy unit by 3. I mean, it's not a huge number, but it is a number. You have 3 base power and 3 armor, so if we were to do something like Bloody Baron you, we need 6 damage to get rid of you, which is still not that easily done. Wolf-headed, I think it's 4 damage then, but that just drops you down to 6. Might play slightly proactive Bloody Baron here. And we would like for you to... I'm gonna go melee row just so you get inspired here from these guys. Technically it means you'll get the Zeal. But I think this is a better spot for you because you're gonna get boosted by more every turn. Okay, whenever a boosted ally is played, boost your lowest powered allied unit. Yeah, so these guys can start to synergize with each other if we're not careful. So, like to set up some destruction here. You are more destructible, though. Whenever a boosted ally is played, boost your lowest powered ally unit by its current amount of boost. I think you're more valuable than these guys, to be honest. I think you're also, with just 2 armor, easier for us to deal with. Drops you to 3 power, 2 armor, which means Thunder is probably sufficient to take you out, especially if we add in some Storm as well. Or Rain. I still have plenty of energy here. There you go. Down you go. So yeah, this guy, I think they're probably not going to have additional War Bear, so I think we're fine there. This Thrive may get triggered, but at this point, 3 points of damage will live. These guys are highly boosted enough that we should be fine, and everything else is, still need to play a card from hand? We do. Oh. Well, in that case, I mean, Ocfus is not great, but maybe we play Ocfus and deliberately hold on to it. And it can actually set up Gregoire on our next turn. Spawn 2 copies of Self with all the boosts. Okay, now let's go Gregoire, and we'll finish with Wolf-headed on our last turn and just see how much damage we can get out of that. So we do that. We do this. We know the last card is Torque, I believe. So that means this is really their last big card that they have remaining. I think they're going to trigger this Thrive. They're definitely going to trigger this Thrive. But as I said, don't think that's a huge concern. It's Triss Butterflies boosting you in their hands. There's the Thrive triggering and the damage getting dealt, but not too concerned here because I think their finisher is actually not great. It's mostly a boost enabler, and we can just get boosted from that. And these guys, and Wolf-headed on whatever their biggest card is, and it is you. So I think we should be in good shape here. Oh, it's Sheldon, actually. That's better. That's a lot of damage. But it is not enough, thankfully. A little bit surprised, but still not enough. And that was our second to last battle, an elite battle, laid on in a run, which we not sure have ever done at all. And we can upgrade MELUSINE further or get Girdle of Giant Strength. That is a good treasure with MELUSINE specifically because we've seen she can get pretty highly boosted, and it does double the power of an allied unit. But, on the other hand, as we were saying before, there are only so many cards we can play in a given match, and we perhaps already have enough good cards that adding more of them just means we're going to have to dump a pretty good card to make room for this. Whereas we were already definitely going to play MELUSINE, and so to upgrade her further means the card that we are already definitely going to play is substantially better here, because she spawns in Cultists on on one side, to the left of this unit, I think is pretty darn sweet. I think we take that. That is largely the reason why we went there to begin with. And we still have, even after that elite battle, 60 energy going into this boss encounter, which I'm pretty sure means we can just spam all the spells we would like. And I'm curious to see, MELUSINE, is it even possible to upgrade an elite further? Feed an elite enemy to evolve? I mean, potentially. Not sure we've ever seen a run with 5 elites in it, but spawn a MELUSINE cultist to the left this unit. That's the same. Oh, she has Zeal, which she would not... Oh, she has Zeal now. Okay, that's one other upgrade that I didn't even realize. So we got the cultist and we got the Zeal. So that's not new, that's not new. Spawn Storm on both enemy rows for 2 turns. Boost self by the duration of row effects on each enemy row. Alright, at that point, it's just like, okay, you win. That I wasn't sure, Nor. I was not sure. I figured... I wasn't sure if there was a hard cap. So, I mean, surely at some point they just haven't figured out what the next upgrades are supposed to do, right? But I guess, like, maybe they could program it such that just the numbers go up by a certain amount. But, no, this is the most we've ever upgraded a keycard already. This is 4 upgrades, I believe, that we've now done, and this would be a 5th if we could make this happen, but we can't. We're about to finish the run. So, that's very interesting, though. I mean, and not surprisingly, if you go out of your way to get 5 upgrades on your keycard, it is just like, you win. Congratulations. You won. But, it is not easy to make that happen, of course. And in some cases, as was the case here in this run, there just aren't enough Leaf battles to make that happen at all, so it is just quite literally impossible. But anyways, we are about to go into the boss battle, and this will be against the White Dragon. We have, of course, seen on a few prior occasions. Well, let's jump in. It is the final boss. And its deal... Oh, okay. Hold on. We drew into the curse. This is actually not bad. Because if we see it now, we can mulligan it away. So it's not going to be in our starting hand. We potentially could still draw into it on our first turn. And we could draw into it on our, like, last or second to last turn. But it's pretty unlikely. So actually, good thing that we saw it there, so we weren't at risk of mulliganing into it now. But, so the deal with the dragon. It has a unique status. It freezes cards. And a frozen card, when it gets moved, gets automatically destroyed. So, they have lots of synergies built around this, where they try to freeze as many of our cards as possible. That, then, if they can move those frozen cards, they get destroyed. They also have a few other freeze synergies that are part of their wings. So we can't destroy this main component of the dragon, the torso or whatnot, but the wings can get destroyed. They have 6 power and 6 armor, and they make their freeze ability stronger. So if a freezing enemy unit is destroyed, it also freezes adjacent units and damages them by 2. So we want to hopefully get rid of this wing as quickly as possible to prevent that from happening. And if we can destroy this wing, then not only do we shut down that ability, we also get to draw a card, which, I mean, might end up turning into a curse. Hopefully it doesn't, but that is potentially a factor. Then the right wing, freezing enemy units cannot get boosted. So that, for some decks in particular, is huge, because if you're playing a boost-centric deck, and your best boosting card gets frozen and it can't receive any boosts anymore, you're in trouble. Fortunately, freezing is a status, and our best boosting card, MELUSINE, wherever you are, has Veil, which means she cannot get other statuses. So MELUSINE is freeze immune, unless they have a way of removing the Veil, which is pretty uncommon. I'm fairly sure they would not be able to do. We saw one normal enemy that was able to do that earlier, but I don't think this boss can. So MELUSINE is actually a really good counter for this boss, because she can pretty much completely ignore the effects of this right wing, or the freeze in total, overall. But we would like to get rid of these wings if we can, and we should have the damage to make that happen, especially with our energy. our spells to do the Masterful Thunder, which is a lot of damage. Also, there are these Frozen Adventurers that start off on our side of the board. And so what these do is they basically just take up spot and make our row space more limited. And what we can do is if we play units next to the Frozen Adventurers, then over time they will go away. But if we don't get rid of them quickly, then they do actually have some cards that they will play that will synergize with us having Frozen Adventurers on our side of the board. So we want to make sure we get rid of those pretty quickly. And row space will be a little bit difficult until we do. So those are the key things to bear in mind. Definitely like the Melusine Cultist, assuming that we will get Melusine out as well. As we were saying, boosting against this boss actually is not often something you want to do because of that wing preventing you from boosting cards that are frozen, but we should have the damage to shut that down, and Melusine can still receive boost with fail, so not too concerned about that. I think the Berserker also, when it transforms, loses its status, if it has any, so that is a bit of a counter as well, although we definitely want to get Melusine. It would be kind of hilarious to use Vincent to weaken one of the wings. I mean, they still have 6 armor, but it would make the wings much quicker to take care of. So that'd be kind of nice. Ulfhedden would be a good finisher. They have some boosting, but mostly they have a lot of free synergies that they will try to use to destroy our cards. But I think we should have enough damage with our aggressive energy usage, though that won't be much of an issue. Might still dump you, though.
Ice we shall battle, and it will be as the end of the world.
Okay. So that was the one of the most dangerous cards there, drawing into the curse. But we didn't draw into it, so that's good. The Grégoire is actually not great, because he is a very highly boosted card that does not have immunity to the freeze. So that means he is very vulnerable to getting destroyed and losing a bunch of value if they can freeze him and then move him to destroy him. So there is that. There's also, I mean, we could, but let's first go Magnifying Spyglass. We do not have Melusine, so let's make sure we get her. Then probably go for, I mean, do we want to use Vincent to weaken one of the wings? Maybe. Also like a Cultist probably as well. As I was saying, the boosts are usually a bit of a mixed bag, but I think we'll have the damage to shut down what would normally be the boost counter that our opponent here has. Bloody Baron is nice against some bosses in case they do get something big. Same with Ulfhedden. Maybe we keep those as a finisher, or Okvis. I think Vincent is not a very high priority. We should have enough damage that that's not a big concern. I'd rather go for something that is more upside potential, like Ulfhedden or Bloody Baron. Yeah. Maybe Okvis. Let's do the Melusine Cultist, and then let's do one of you two, I think. Let's do Ulfhedden, and then so what we could theoretically do is Philippa has 10 damage, split across multiple units. The first round we can control who gets the 4 damage. But when the only cards on the board are the 2 wings that we definitely want to destroy, then that is kind of nice to have the chance to... See, this is functionally 12, and this is functionally another 12. Yeah, so it takes 24 damage to remove them both. I mean, it's definitely nowhere near enough to remove them both. It's not even enough to remove one of them, even if all the damage randomly happened to go to one target. So, I mean, it's nice to have all that damage directed towards something we do want to destroy, and destroy quickly, but... is that as big of a deal? I mean, we don't have Melusine yet, which would normally be the card we play first. So I think we might do this. I think we might just do this, and we should try to play next to the Frozen Adventurers, because, yeah, if there are units on both sides, we'll reduce the counter by 1, and then once we've dropped the counter down to 0, it goes away. And we have more board space, and as I said, they do have some synergies. Some synergies, if we keep these Frozen Adventurers on the board for too long. So I think we prioritize getting rid of this wing. The boosting wing. The anti-boosting wing. Oh, and almost all the damage went onto it. So, I mean, we have so much energy that I think we just immediately take it out. And we immediately draw a card, and we know that card is going to be Melusine. Yes, it's overkill damage. Yeah, we technically didn't have to destroy it on that turn because it wasn't like that was going to be a factor immediately, but you know. Okay, so this guy's a threat. This guy may not look like a big deal, and also we played Philippa first because we don't care if she gets frozen because a 1-point unit. You destroy her. Ooh, cool. We lost Philippa. What this guy does is, remember, frozen units, yes, there's the whole they can't get boosted thing if this wing is still alive, but we got rid of that. The main thing is that if a frozen unit gets moved, it gets destroyed. And so they need movement to make that happen, of course. And this is a way of making that happen. On turn end, or every 3 turns, move a random freezing enemy unit to the other row. Basically, destroy a frozen unit every 3 turns. So if we get rid of you, then that shuts down their most powerful combo that they will have. So we definitely would like to do that. So let's get Melusine, and let's play Melusine here. Oh, actually should have put her there. For some reason I thought it was going to spawn to the right side, because we could have potentially made sure that we got characters on both sides, and obviously we already had Philip on that side. So yeah, either way, it was definitely the right move to put Melusine there to get this taken care of a little more quickly. We'll still be fine, but let's put the Storm there, and I think we will, once again. I mean, technically we can wait to see if you play other units next to this guy, and maybe we get additional value out of the overkill damage, so we should wait until next turn. We should wait until next turn, technically speaking. Bring us an enemy unit, cooldown 2. You're gonna freeze this. Unless we destroy you. We would like for you to stay alive. But you have a shield, which makes matters difficult. Whatever we play, we want to play it here. I'd like to get a cultist down here early to get more boosts, but that's not great for damage purposes. Ulfhen is the best damage, but we need to get rid of your shield first. Then it hits you for 6. You drop down to 5. Can damage you by 1 here. You're 4. We could, if the rain hit first, then we could use thunder, and that would destroy you probably. Remove shield with this. Ulfheden, then thunder, but order of operations there just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So I think we're just gonna target you with thunder. Make sure that you can't move whatever it is that they freeze with this ice elemental. And I think that means we can still play you.
We dare not set sail without her blessing.
Had to do it on that turn, otherwise he would have been off cooldown. He would have been able to move and destroy Philippa, which is not a huge deal, but might have, if they were smart, frozen a cultist and then moved that and destroyed that, and that would have been a much bigger deal. Yeah, stay freeze a cultist. Whenever a unit gets frozen, she gets boosted. So she is dangerous. But she could be a solid Ulfheden target. I think we'd like... Well, I mean, we would like to get cultists down here as quickly as possible, yes. But, we will get rid of this frozen adventurer at the end of this turn. We should probably use a cultist here, though, as much as I'd love to row stack them. Because to maximize the boosts here, we should get rid of this as quickly as possible, I think. So let's do this.
Hear my prayer. Fill me with strength.
And I think we're okay with waiting to go after you because we can use Ulfheden to hit you pretty hard on a future occasion. So let's put this back on. And wait to use this, probably, unless they're about to move something. But for the most part, they have 1 or 2 cards that can move things immediately. But the biggest threat for movement, the most reliable and predictable movement they have is this guy here that we already got rid of. They might play another one later on, but let's try to take out this wing. not going to be enough damage here in of itself. Oh, that was minimum roll. Darn. Okay, we got rid of one of the frozen adventurers over here, so that is nice. That's another bruiser. We definitely want to get rid of you. Okay, and we can reset a highly boosted card, which is another way to deal with things like this Winter Queen. So, Cultists, we can use to put the rain back on this row. And we will do just that. And we'd like to put something here to get rid of this Frozen Adventurer as quickly as possible. And Synthesis will have a burst of damage, but it will take a turn before we can do that. That might be kind of useful, though. I think we might want to go that route. And now, on one hand, you're kind of the card we want to focus on getting rid of. On the other hand, you're in the middle, so if we get overkill damage, we can also hit you. So that'd be nice. So let's go for the middle card here. And we get the kill, we get a little bit of overkill damage, we will get some damage on the rain as well. So you're dropping lower. We are blowing through energy quite quickly because, of course, we're using a lot of energy each turn. But we're doing that in part to remove some of their most important cards that should mean they have less long-term potential. And we have already drawn into all of our cards, unless we're going to destroy this wing and draw into one more. So it's, we don't have... we still have a decent number of turns remaining, I suppose. Okay. I don't like that they keep on targeting the cultists. This can also move stuff. So we want to get rid of you. But we played Synthesis so that we have the damage to destroy stuff like you. And we don't necessarily... we don't necessarily need to use energy to make that happen. However, we might want to put a greatsword on here before we apply this damage, is what I'm thinking. It's kind of what I'm thinking here. And the other thing worth considering is that if they do truly find a way to move some of our frozen cards, which we are trying to destroy their units that can do that, they have at least one special card that moves random units, several random units on our side of the board. So that could still, in a big burst, remove a bunch of our cards. That's their strongest card at this point. What we can do to counter that is if we completely flood a row with 9 cards in it, or 8 plus 1 for Fissure, nothing can be moved into that row. So that actually, normally that's a bad thing. It means you don't have any room for anything else, but it would, in this case, actually make it more difficult for them to, or in some cases impossible, for them to move some of our cards. So that is something we might want to consider doing. So let us go here for you. Then we start hitting you. MELUSINE can put the storm here again. Technically, storm would be better in this row where there are 2... Well, in this case, it doesn't make a huge difference. Still going to wait to use this because there's a row effect in each row. Yes, you could theoretically get destroyed if you get moved, but if so, then so be it. We might portal here just to try to clog this row, as we were just saying. We can fill a row entirely. That is something that can make it much more difficult for them to pull off their key freeze combos. Freeze plus movements. They have a damage unit. You'll get boosted by 1 every turn. Or we can just do a chunk of damage here. How many damage? They have 2 damage cards, which means this is enough to destroy you. I mean, technically, it would be enough even if we didn't have the Bloodthirst, because you're going to take 1 damage from the rain anyway. So that is intriguing. But it was not a super high priority just because this was going to happen eventually. In fact, might even prefer to use you and just target this Ice Elemental, get this a little bit lower, because this will continue to apply more freezes, and that's more likely long-term to be an issue, because this is going to go down. Going to go down fairly soon, one would assume. So I think we do this. I think we hit you. Okay, so that was another one of the frozen adventurers that we got rid of. Aridin will deal frost damage to us, which is going to hit our most highly boosted card by 2 damage. Oh, 3 damage, actually. Okay. So now, we do need time for the Drummond Berserker. If it does not hit the left wing with the random damage, then next turn we could play Gregoire and get the death blow on it. Oh, actually, we don't have... So we don't have rain here at the moment. I think we should still do this. So random damage may hit you, and random damage may hit you. We want you to take 1 damage between you and between you, because that would set up Gregoire. Okay, that's fine. That is another card that can move stuff, so we definitely want to get rid of that.
A receipt. I'll draw a pecker on your forehead if you like.
Okay, so now we put the Storm back here. We use Gregoire to destroy this, get the death blow, so we'll get a big boost. We'll fill the melee row. So now our range row cannot get moved. Our melee row can get moved, but our range row cannot. So there's no room for any of these guys to... Oh, no. Okay, we're just not going to play this. Oh, well. It was a card we were going to draw into anyway. It was a little bonus anyway, but yeah, that does stink. So... Yeah, these can't get moved here, so these are safe from the freeze destroying them. These can get moved over here, though, because there is room. So let's make sure we get rid of you. And even if this low rolls, it doesn't. But if it did, the Storm would have finished you off anyway. Okay, Ardgeth is more Frost. And so now... I mean, we have wide damage with Ockfist, although they don't have many units. We have resetting a powerful card with Bloody Baron, which would be you. We have damaging a powerful card with Ulfhedden, which would be you. So, or we could, technically we can reset ourselves if someone is highly damaged, which is not really the case, but okay. Let's, I think we're looking at Ockfist here. We might even deliberately wait to play this order until they have more cards on the board. And we are going to be spending at most 3 more turns, which means we actually could spend ultra aggressive here. We could spend all the energy we want and we still would not run out. So let us, let's see. I was thinking we'd go Portal. I was thinking we would go Portal to try to start clogging this row or getting closer to clogging this row. Would be kind of difficult, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from one portal, 8 from another portal, 9 from another portal. We have to have 3 portals. We have to go portal every single turn. And by our last turn, we would clog both rows. I mean, the timing is good for us in that way. It's not great for preventing our opponent from doing any movement, but maybe that's still worth considering. Let's try it. I mean, there's a chance we might get something that spawns additional units. This is damage. This obviously we know gets healed over time. This gets boosted over time. Technically, you're worth the most in a long... With a lot of time remaining, you're worth the most. This is the medium option. This is just worse than you. I think we'll do this. Just to give us more options and more ways to remove cards like that. In case they do play anything else that's threatening. Okay. Freeze 3 adjacent enemy units. So there's more freezes. And so now we are, once again, just looking to spam Portal. Let's see what we get here. And I mean, we can drop you down to 1 with Vincent, but that's not a huge deal. I think it's gonna be Greatsword Lady of the Lake. Is she has a shield and she gives a shield. I don't think that's gonna make a huge difference. I think it's this. Then technically we're going to damage / reset you, so the damage on you is not all that meaningful, but it does give us more boosts from the cultists and on MELUSINE. So I think we will still opt to go that route, just from a purely boost standpoint. And we'll do this now just to get you a little bit healed up in case you may get destroyed. But yeah, it's obviously the damage is bad, but I do want to make sure we can fill this row on our last turn. So, oh, also, yeah. Are we damaging you? Or are we resetting you? I think we damage. So, you're now a 6. Will continue to get boosted if they apply more of the freezes, but you're theoretically in removal range for Thunder if we really wanted to do that, but I think we're still looking at Portal here. More freezing, which means you are going to get boosted again. And this is likely to be the last turn that we actually want to play a card, so we don't really want to use Curse. But, okay. You can remove Aridin, who is still giving them extra damage on the Frost, so that's not a terrible idea to get rid of him. So we probably will go that route. And then we can reset the power, and we're probably going to want to do that in one of our own units, to be honest. But let's do this. And even if they were to destroy a bunch of our cards here, of course they have 1 unit on the board right now. So, it would take a lot. It would take a lot for them to catch us. So, Bloody Baron. Oh, did we forget to use that? We might have forgotten to use that on our previous turn. No, I don't think so, because we knew it was going to be, this would fill an entire row. That Rupture is going to kill you. It deals damage equal to your base power at the end of this turn, and you're not... Oh, actually, do you have armor still? No, you'll hang on with one, does it ignore armor? It does not ignore armor. Yeah, so you'll hang on with 1 power. Okay. So, we can reset someone on our side, because none of their cards are boosted anymore. We can do this for additional boostages once again. And who is the most damaged, basically? Not you. -3, -3, -3, -6. Oh, actually, I mean, you are going to get healed when we deal damage, but still, it's technically still the best option, because I'm not sure you're going to have time to get healed anyway. There. Okay. Then we will... could damage with Thunder, but we'll portal. We'll portal and clog our row. Damage all other units by 1. We have way more units than our opponent. Usually you would do this if you have way fewer units than your opponent. But, oh. Actually, this is amazing.
Go to hell, I ask you politely.
Well, I mean, technically we're going to run out of space anyway, but this can get rid of Curse. With our next worst card. Huzzah! Okay, well, we have an almost 100-point lead. In fact, once the damage triggers here and the boost trigger here, it might be just about 100. So feeling pretty good as things stand, and that's a little bit of damage, but that will not do. So we will definitely still take the win. All right, and there you have it. A very highly upgraded MELUSINE. Takes up, was it really only 3 elites? I thought it was 4, or maybe did we skip one of them? I guess we did skip one of them. Anyways, I mean, MELUSINE got incredibly powerful there. And, well, apparently that is a new record. I might tie a record for most elites in a given match, but, either way, successful run, you'll love to see it. And that means we get a lot of experience here to unlock additional stuffs. And let's see what is new. So, I think we just got this. Then Trigger Warrior, consume adjacent units, and spawn a drone on this row for each insectoid consumed. Hive Mind, to get more consumption and more units as well. Glusty, destroy all 1 power units, then boost self by 2 for each destroyed unit. Ideally, you're destroying your opponent's 1 power units, and you're getting, not only removing those cards from your opponent's side, but also boosting yourself. It is still a net positive if you're destroying your own 1-power units, but it's not as good. You could do both if you have the setup for that. Iteran, spawn in 1-power copy of a unit anytime you are spawning in a unit once per turn, which, at least in multiplayer Gwent, has ridiculous upside. New spell we can choose, Mirror Image. Spawn a 1-power copy of an allied unit on this row. There's nothing saying you can't do that to your key card. So if you do that, that's pretty insane. I mean, yes, it's a 1-power copy, but in some cases, with Detloff in particular comes to mind, that'd be pretty straightforward to still get him boosted back up, or, you know, have his base power at a reasonable number, and then you functionally just have 2 completely viable versions of your key card. And you could do that every turn if you really wanted to, although it's expensive. Centurion Spellweaver, damage unit by 1 whenever you play a special, gain 2 charges. So that's mostly going to be coming from, well, using your spells, which is kind of fitting, given the name of the card. Fulmar definitely would work with Melusine, because in multiplayer Gwent, that's what he does. Spawn Rain on an enemy row for 3 turns, and then replace any row effect with a Storm of the same duration. So basically, you start by putting a bunch of Rain on the board, which is that 2 damage in total. Then you can replace Rain with Storm, which is damaging every unit on that row for even more damage. So again, given how we were just doing a bunch of weather stuff, he's a great card to synergize with Melusine. Didn't need him last time, but would have been a nice addition for that run. Avlok, spawn and play Biting Frost, Impenetrable Fog, or Torrential Rain. All weather effects, all would have been helpful with Melusine, and it kind of felt like, you know, when we were running Melusine, given how few options there were in our starting deck, and few cards that we had seen that give weather effects, it seemed like there were probably going to be a whole bunch that we were about to unlock, and, you know, the thought occurred that maybe we wait to see, you know, once we get those, maybe that's the best time to run Melusine, but hey, it worked out fine. More treasures. Vial of Forbidden Knowledge. Starts on the board as a passive. Gain 7 energy and downgrade a random allied unit in your deck by 1. Whoa! Charge 13, the number of charges is not reset between battles. So, it's a source of energy at the cost of weakening one of your units. That's very interesting trade-off there. Huh. I have Nehelani. Oh, is that from the... Is that the illusion... the illusion revealing item from Witcher 3? Passive, so starts on the board. Remove 2 cards. And self from your deck. Okay, yeah, and that makes sense. Basically, remove your 2 weakest cards. Okay, and of choice, which is definitely better than some other sources of similar things. Then, Hawker Smuggler, at the end of your turn, boost a random unit in your hand by 1. Scourgiol, Drummond, damage an enemy unit by Scourgiol's base power, which we can't see here. In multiplayer Gwent, it increases every round, but I don't know if that's the case in this. Probably not, because we don't see the ability listed there. Dunka, Bale Zeal, damage an enemy unit by 3, and then at the end of your turn, if you have not used that order, boost a random unit in your hand by 1. Same as it is in Gwent multiplayer, and very similar to Hawker Smuggler as well. Some hand boosting, and what we saw the Mountain King doing, a lot of that stuff. And next, oh, that's still in progress. After that, we'd have a new Masterful Rapid Evolution. Transform an allied unit into a random one, then repeat this ability 2 more times. What? I don't... Huh? Does that mean you're transforming 3 separate allied units? Or does that mean the same unit gets transformed 2 additional times, in which case, you know, what is the benefit of that? If it was like transform 3 times and you get to choose which one you keep, that would make sense. That would take out the RNG, or at least a lot of the RNG from it, but yeah, that one's... I'm not sure what to make of that. But that, of course, is another successful run, and that means we have added another mutagen to the tank. Hopefully be looking to fill this up soon. But, well, that is now a successful Melusine Savage Fury run, and that means, theoretically at least, next on the list would be, I believe, the final key card that we've not yet used for Hive Mind, that being Queen Meve. She will boost all the units we have on our side of the board by 1 every 3 turns, so in theory, you're trying to flood your side of the board with as many cards as possible, as quickly as possible. So that is likely what we'll be looking for next, unless, you know, inspiration strikes and it feels like there's some other reason to go for something else. But that was, I mean, MELUSINE is one of my favorite cards from Gwent multiplayer. She did not have all the same abilities she has in Gwent multiplayer in Rogue Mage, so didn't feel quite the same. And as we were saying before, not as many synergies, at least with the available cards we had at the time. We just unlocked a bunch that would make a MELUSINE run probably a lot more fruitful. But hey, we upgraded her 3 times, and by then, she was still pretty awesome. So, that's always good news. And, well, next time, as I said, we'll be looking for, hopefully, another successful run with Hivemind.